Sleep matters. The smile that threatens. Imagine someone smiling at you in a moment that should feel safe, but instead leaves a chill in the air. Not all smiles bring warmth. Some are masks. Some are weapons. Some do not ask for trust. They demand it. The smile that threatens is not about joy or kindness. It is about control. It is about a hidden message delivered in a gesture that pretends to be innocent. This kind of smile does not appear in isolation. It shows up when power is at play, when one person wants to remind another of who is in charge. It might appear at the end of an argument, or in the middle of a silent pause, or when no words are needed. And that is the trick. Because it seems small and harmless, it gets dismissed. But the body knows. The nervous system flinches. The subconscious tightens. Because the smile carries more than expression. It carries meaning. The mind tries to decode it. Is it sarcasm? Is it passive aggression? Is it a warning? Often, it is all of those at once. The smile tells you, I am watching. It tells you, I could hurt you if I wanted. It tells you, this situation is not what you think it is. It wraps tension in politeness and violence in silence. That is why it is so powerful. Because it works under the radar. And those who use it know what they are doing. They are not smiling out of joy. They are smiling to confuse, to provoke uncertainty, to create emotional imbalance. And they usually succeed. Because we are trained from childhood to treat smiles as signals of peace. But what happens when a smile is not safe? What happens when a smile is sharper than a word? This is the moment when the psyche begins to doubt its own instincts. When confusion takes over and we begin to second-guess what we saw. Maybe they did not mean it like that. Maybe I am reading too much into it. Maybe I am too sensitive. And so the trap closes. The person on the receiving end dismisses their own perception, and the person delivering the threat walks away untouched. This is not accidental. It is psychological strategy. People in power often use subtle intimidation instead of direct confrontation. The smile becomes a tool, a soft punch, a coded message. It avoids conflict on the surface but still achieves dominance underneath. And that is why it can be more damaging than yelling or arguing. Because it leaves no trace. It creates fear without evidence, discomfort without a name, and manipulation without a clear story. To deal with this kind of smile, one must learn to trust their internal signals, the stomach tension, the racing thoughts, the quiet doubt. These are not mistakes, they are messages. If a smile makes you shrink instead of grow, it is not a smile you need to accept. You do not have to match it with one of your own. You do not have to pretend it feels fine. Sometimes noticing is enough. Naming it privately is a start. And with enough awareness, the power of that smile begins to dissolve. Because what manipulates most is what stays hidden. And once you bring it into the light, it loses its hold. A smile is not always a smile. Sometimes it is a threat with teeth, the flattery that chains. Picture a moment when someone praises you with such sweetness, it feels impossible not to like them. They speak about your qualities with such charm. It feels like they see you more clearly than anyone else. But as the praise continues, you feel something tighten. The compliments feel less like gifts and more like contracts. You are not being celebrated, you are being captured. Flattery is not always innocent. When used with intent, it becomes a tool of control. It does not uplift, it hooks. It creates a bond, but not one based on truth. It creates a loyalty that is not requested, it is required. You begin to feel like you owe the flatterer something, your agreement, your approval, your silence. You are not being appreciated, you are being recruited. This kind of flattery is designed to disarm. It works quickly because we all have the desire to be seen. We want to be valued, we want to be recognized. And this makes us vulnerable. When someone reflects our identity back to us in a glowing way, it is hard not to lean in. But this is exactly the trick. Because what is being reflected is not always real. It is exaggerated, shaped, strategically chosen. The danger of flattery is that it builds a false mirror. one that shows you what you want to believe about yourself but not what is actually true. And when that mirror becomes your favorite, you depend on it, you seek it, and in seeking it, you start to change. You soften your opinions, you avoid disagreement. You protect the source of the praise, even if it means harming yourself. The one who flatters does not always look like a manipulator. They may smile, they may offer support, they may appear generous. But underneath, there is a need to control the narrative. Their praise is not free. It carries expectation. It demands return. And slowly, the one who receives it becomes less themselves and more what the flatterer needs them to be. This is how the chain is built. You stop asking hard questions. You stop noticing the inconsistencies. You stop defending your own opinions. Because why risk losing the praise? Why challenge the person who tells you you are amazing? But the truth is that real appreciation never makes you smaller. It never makes you afraid to be honest. If a compliment silences your voice, it is not a compliment. It is a leash. To break free from this, you must learn to sit with praise without needing it. Accept kindness, but question timing. Appreciate words, but observe patterns. If someone only offers flattery when they need you to agree, that is not love. That is strategy. And it has nothing to do with you. It is not your worth they are reflecting. It is their need for influence. The strongest form of protection is to know yourself well enough that no outside praise can change your truth. When you can thank someone for a compliment without feeling obligated, you are free. When you can listen without attaching your identity to what they say, you are unchained. The most dangerous flattery is the one that sounds perfect, because perfection hides intention. And when someone uses your own image to hold you still, it is no longer admiration. It is a trap dressed as affection. The apology that commands, imagine someone says sorry, but instead of it softening the moment, it tightens it. The words are correct. The tone is calm, but the feeling is off. Their apology does not open space, it fills it. It claims control. It is not an act of remorse. It is a tactic. This is the apology that commands. Some apologies are not about taking responsibility. They are about reclaiming position. They arrive not to heal, but to shut things down, to avoid further conversation, to end criticism, to redirect the attention. And they work because we are conditioned to receive an apology as a sign of humility. But sometimes the words "I'm sorry" are not a bridge. They are a barrier. This kind of apology demands your forgiveness, even if you are not ready. It pushes you to move on, even if your feelings have not settled. It makes you feel ungrateful or petty for staying hurt, because the person already said sorry, right? So what more could you want? This is how the apology becomes a command. It tells you, the topic is over, the pain is done, the story is closed, even when it is not. And the worst part is, the more graceful the apology sounds, the harder it is to push back. The words are crafted, the tone is perfect, but what is missing is the willingness to sit in discomfort. The person does not want to understand. They want to escape the consequences of what they did, so they use language to clear the board. They say, sorry not to connect, but to control. You begin to feel guilty for still being upset. You begin to doubt your right to feel. You start to shrink your reactions to match their script. And the person who caused harm walks away feeling like the better one. This is how apologies can manipulate. They create a shortcut to peace without doing the work. But real apologies do not command. They invite. They hold space for the other person to be honest. They allow messiness. They take time. They do not erase pain. They acknowledge it. If someone uses an apology to silence you, it is not about care. It is about dominance dressed as decency. To see through this, you must slow down. Listen not just to words, but to behavior. Does the person change after the apology? Do they make space for your truth? Or do they expect immediate forgiveness? Do they act as if they deserve praise for apologizing? Or do they remain present even when it is uncomfortable? An apology should not feel like a performance. It should feel like connection. If it pressures you into acceptance, it is not real. If it protects their ego instead of tending to your wound, it is not for you. And if it leaves you feeling more responsible than before, then it is a trick. Some of the most dangerous power plays are wrapped in soft language. The apology that commands is not about healing. It is about winning quietly. And the only way to break its spell is to know your pain matters, even if someone says the right words. The silence that punishes. Imagine speaking your truth to someone you trust and being met with nothing. No words, no gestures, just the weight of silence. You search their eyes, hoping for warmth, or at least understanding, but all you receive is emptiness. This silence is not peaceful. It is not the kind that soothes or gives space. It is the kind that punishes, a weapon carefully disguised as absence. Silence, in its purest form, can be healing, but when used with intention, it becomes sharp. It begins to speak through its absence. It says, "You are not worth responding to." It says, "Your voice does not matter." And soon it says, "Maybe you should not speak at all." Over time, the one on the receiving end starts to bend. They try harder to please. They tiptoe, apologize, retract. They learn how to shrink themselves just enough to avoid the silence. This trap does not scream. It does not bruise. It only waits. And that waiting becomes unbearable. A person can endure many things, but not the feeling of being emotionally erased. The silence that punishes does not need to be loud to be cruel. It just needs to be persistent. People who use silence this way often do so to gain control. They know the other person fears emotional distance. They know that the absence of words can become louder than any argument. It makes the punished chase connection. It makes them question what they did wrong, even if they did nothing. It pulls them back into the orbit of someone who holds power through detachment. What makes this silence so powerful is its ambiguity. You cannot argue with silence. You cannot reason with it. It gives you nothing to work with, yet takes everything from you. Your peace, your clarity, your voice. All slowly dissolve in the hope that maybe, if you just fix something in yourself, the silence will break. But the silence was never about you. It was about control. When we begin to recognize that, we stop chasing. We stop bending. We stop offering explanations to a wall. We reclaim our sound. Because true connection does not punish with silence. It holds space. It listens. And it speaks, even when it is difficult. The compliment that corrupts. Picture a child who is told they are brilliant every time they succeed. The words feel good. They glow inside. But what happens when that child begins to chase the compliment more than the joy of learning? What happens when failure feels like the opposite of love? Compliments are supposed to uplift, but sometimes they distort, especially when they are tied to conditions. You are amazing when you win. You are lovable when you achieve. You are good when you behave. Over time, the compliment stops being a gift. It becomes a contract. This kind of praise shapes identity. It creates a fragile self-image built on approval. The person starts performing for the compliment rather than for truth. They say the right things, do the expected actions, and bury their real feelings deep down where no one can find them. Because if the applause stops, who are they? The corruption is slow. It starts with one smile that feels earned. Then, it becomes a need. Soon, the compliment is not a bonus, it is a lifeline. And without it, they feel worthless. They do not realize they have been programmed to need validation to feel real. This kind of dynamic often shows up in relationships. One person offers constant praise, but only when the other fits a mold. When they step out of line, the praise turns cold. The message is clear. You are only good when you fit my version of good. And just like that, the compliment becomes a leash. To unlearn this is difficult, because who would suspect that something so kind could do harm? But the key is in intention. Real compliments are not currency. They are reflections. They do not seek control. They offer presence. They say, "I see you, not I approve of you." The challenge is to find value in yourself that exists even when no one claps, to do something kind even if no one notices, to fail and still feel whole, because that is the kind of strength that no compliment can corrupt, the guilt that binds. Imagine feeling a tightness in your chest after saying no to someone you care about. Not because you were unkind, not because they needed you urgently, but because you chose yourself, and now guilt sits like a weight on your heart. That is not guilt from wrongdoing. That is guilt designed to bind. Some guilt is natural. It teaches us empathy. It reminds us of our impact. But when guilt is planted by someone else, used as a tether to keep us in place, it becomes manipulation. It is no longer a mirror. It is a chain. The guilt that binds shows up in subtle ways. A sigh, a look of disappointment, a story shared at just the right moment to remind you of how much they have done for you. It does not demand. It implies, and you, wanting to be good, begin to fold. It is one of the most powerful emotional tools, because it turns your own conscience against you. You begin to believe that self-care is selfish, that boundaries are betrayals, that distance means you do not love them enough, and so you stay, you give, you bend, until you forget where you end and they begin. This kind of guilt thrives in families, in partnerships, in long friendships. It is quiet but consistent. You may not even realize it is happening until you feel the need to apologize for living your own life, until your joy comes with a side of shame. Breaking free does not mean becoming cold. It means becoming clear. It means recognizing that love is not a debt, that care is not compliance, that your life is not owed in pieces to keep someone else comfortable. True connection does not use guilt as glue. It invites, not coerces. It supports, not shames. And it always makes space for freedom without fear. The question that weakens. Have you ever been asked a question that felt innocent on the surface but left you doubting yourself for days? A question that lingered not because of its content, but because of the way it was asked, as if it carried a hidden meaning. A quiet suggestion that you are not enough. Questions have power. They can open minds or they can close them. They can invite clarity or inject confusion. When used with care, questions expand us, but when used with control, they make us shrink. The question that weakens is not always direct. It can sound like, "Are you sure you can handle this?" Or, "Do you really think that is a good idea?" It may come with a smile or a laugh, making it harder to challenge. But its impact is sharp. It plants a seed of doubt and watches it grow. These questions often come from people close to us, not because they hate us, but because they fear our change. They want us to stay within the version of ourselves they are comfortable with. So they question not to learn, but to limit. Over time, these questions accumulate. You begin to hesitate. You second-guess your choices. You lose trust in your own voice. Not because you failed, but because someone kept asking, "Are you sure?" The danger is not in the question itself. It is in the intention behind it, and in how we respond. Do we internalize the doubt, or do we investigate it? Do we retreat, or do we reaffirm? To protect yourself, you must become your own anchor. Learn to ask your own questions with kindness. Do I believe in this path? Am I acting from fear or from truth? Let those questions strengthen you, not weaken you. Because questions, like any tool, can build or break. And the ones worth keeping are the ones that make you more of who you are, not less. The kindness that traps. Imagine being offered help in a moment of vulnerability. You are tired, unsure, maybe even scared, and someone steps in with a smile, offering comfort. It feels like relief, like safety. But then, slowly, you begin to notice the strings. Kindness can be pure, but sometimes it is transactional. It is given with the quiet expectation of control. I helped you, now stay close. Now agree with me. Now do not leave. This is the kindness that traps. It often begins with a generous gesture, a ride when you were stranded, a loan when you were broke, a shoulder when you needed to cry. But later, that kindness becomes a weapon, brought up in arguments, used as leverage, implied in every decision. You begin to feel like you owe them your loyalty, even your silence. This is a difficult trap because it wears the face of love. People around you may not see the harm. They see someone who is always there for you, who gave so much. They do not see how that giving came with a quiet price. And you, not wanting to be ungrateful, stay. You soften your voice. You hide your needs. You prioritize their comfort over your freedom. You confuse obligation with love. But true kindness does not demand a return. It does not count favors. It does not bind with guilt. It gives and lets go. It supports and steps back. It allows the one receiving it to grow, even if that growth leads them elsewhere. To escape the kindness that traps, you must remember your worth outside of what was given to you. You must allow yourself to receive help without surrendering your soul. And you must learn to say thank you without saying yes to everything after. Because real kindness does not cage. It frees. The approval that controls. Imagine a child learning that their worth is tied to a smile, not because they did something kind or meaningful, but because they behaved in a way that pleased someone else. That smile, that nod of approval, becomes more than just a reaction. It becomes a goal, a source of safety, and without realizing it, they begin to live for that approval. They shape their choices around it, and even as they grow older, the pattern stays. The approval that controls is not loud, it whispers, but it leaves deep marks. This kind of control is one of the most invisible. It is not enforced with rules or threats. It is enforced with rewards. Every compliment is a nudge. Every nod is a push. Every bit of recognition is a signal that says, keep doing what you just did. And this seems harmless at first, but over time, it shapes a person's identity. It tells them what parts of themselves are lovable and what parts must be hidden. People begin to censor themselves not out of fear, but out of hope. Hope that they will be liked. Hope that they will be chosen. Hope that they will belong. And this makes the control even stronger, because it feels like a choice. It feels like you are doing it for your own good, but slowly, you are giving up more than you realize. You are trading authenticity for acceptance. You are giving up your voice to fit someone else's script. And the one who holds the approval often does not appear controlling. They may seem warm, supportive, encouraging, but their approval is selective, conditional. It rewards obedience and punishes dissent. Not with anger, but with distance, with withdrawal, with silence. And so the one seeking approval tries even harder. They become smaller. They begin to anticipate what will be liked and shape themselves around it. This is how people lose their edge, their honesty, their boundaries. This is how someone who once had strong opinions becomes someone who avoids friction at all costs, because the risk of disapproval feels too high, because they have been trained to believe that being liked is the same as being safe, but the cost is high. When you live for approval, you live in fragments. You never fully arrive. You never fully speak. You never fully rest, because there is always a performance happening. And this is the true control. Not chains, not force, but the quiet shaping of behavior through something as simple as a smile or a frown. To break this control, you have to start by noticing it. Where do you shrink? Where do you hold back your real thoughts? Who do you try to please without even thinking? The moment you become aware, you begin to return to yourself. Approval is not wrong. We all need affirmation. But when it becomes the guide for every decision, it stops being support and starts being a leash. You do not need to be understood by everyone. You do not need to be agreed with at all times. You do not need to win every heart. What you need is to be true, even if it costs you a smile, even if it earns you a frown, because your life is not meant to be a reflection of someone else's preference. It is meant to be a reflection of your truth. The approval that controls loses its power the moment you decide that your peace is more important than their praise. The promise that poisons. Picture this. Someone tells you something that sounds too good to be false. A promise filled with kindness and hope. Maybe they say they will always be there. Maybe they promise they will never change. Maybe they promise you a future that feels warm and easy, and in that moment, you believe it. You want to. Because the promise fits into a space inside you that needed to hear it. But over time, the promise does not grow into reality. It begins to rot. The promise that poisons does not start as a lie. Sometimes it is believed by the person who gives it. But belief is not enough. Because a promise creates expectation. It sets a direction. And when that direction becomes a tool for comfort instead of commitment, it becomes dangerous. It leads you forward without ever arriving. It keeps you waiting. And while you wait, you give more than you should. Some people use promises to calm your doubts. They sense your hesitation, and instead of addressing it, they cover it with a soft blanket of words. They promise security. They promise consistency. They promise love that will never shift. And the more you hear it, the more you invest. You build around it. You stop questioning. You stop protecting yourself. Because you think the future is already written. But the truth is, the promise was never a foundation. It was a trap. It is not just that the promise is broken. It is how it was used. It became a leash, a way to keep you around, a way to delay your decisions, a way to avoid being accountable in the present by painting a perfect future that never comes. And when you bring it up, the person may say, "I meant it. I tried." As if intention should erase the damage. But the harm is not just in the broken word. It is in the lost time, the emotional investment, the slow erosion of trust, the confusion that sets in when someone's actions no longer match their promises but they still expect you to believe. This gap between words and behavior is where the poison grows. It feeds on hope. It feeds on waiting. It feeds on your silence. To escape this, you have to begin listening with sharper ears. Do not just hear the promise. Watch the pattern. Does the person follow through? Do they adjust when reality shifts? Do they communicate when they fall short? Or do they hide behind soft phrases and vague intentions? The promise that poisons often sounds beautiful. But beauty without follow-through is not comfort. It is manipulation. You deserve a future that is built on action, not just hope. On consistency, not just intention. On presence, not just projection. You do not owe loyalty to someone who keeps you in place with a fantasy. You do not have to keep believing in a version of them that only exists in words. Sometimes the most honest thing you can do is walk away from a promise that never had roots, because a real promise does not poison. It protects, and it proves itself in the present, not just in the poetry of tomorrow. The fear that sells lies. Imagine walking into a room where every sign tells you to be afraid. The lights flicker, the air feels heavy, and you cannot see clearly. You do not run, but you do not feel safe either. You stay still, waiting for clarity, waiting for some confirmation of the danger you feel. But what if the fear itself is the trap? What if the fear is not there to warn you, but to sell you something you do not need? The fear that sells lies is one of the oldest tools of influence. It works not by providing facts, but by activating your survival response. It bypasses your logic. It goes straight to your instincts. It tells you the worst is coming. that something is wrong, that you are not prepared, and then it offers you a solution, a product, a belief, a decision, and because you are afraid, you accept it. This kind of manipulation is everywhere. In media, in advertising, in relationships, in systems of power. It paints worst-case scenarios and then positions itself as the only answer. And if you are not careful, you will buy into it without even knowing. You will accept the story. You will make the choice. You will take the bait. Not because it is true, but because it offered relief. Fear creates urgency. Urgency kills reflection. And when you stop thinking clearly, you are easier to guide, easier to convince, easier to control. This is why fear is such a powerful tool. It does not need to be real, it just needs to feel real. And once it feels real, it creates a story. One where someone else has the answer and you are helpless without it. This happens in relationships too. Someone may plant seeds of doubt. What if I leave you? What if you cannot make it without me? What if no one else will love you like I do? These are not questions. They are weapons. They create fear. And then they use that fear to keep you in place. This is not love. This is sales. Emotional sales built on anxiety. To break free from this trick, you must start questioning the fear itself. Is it based on evidence, or is it being amplified for effect? Who benefits from your fear? Who gains power when you feel uncertain? What are they asking you to believe once they have you scared? Fear can be useful when it is connected to truth, but when it is manufactured, it becomes a prison. You begin to live in defense. You begin to shrink your choices. You begin to trade your freedom for a sense of safety that never fully arrives. And this is the lie, that the fear is protecting you, when really it is directing you. You are allowed to pause. You are allowed to breathe. You are allowed to look at the thing that scares you and ask, is this real? You do not owe anyone your panic. You do not have to buy what they are selling just because they wrapped it in urgency. The fear that sells lies cannot hold you once you stop being a customer. Your clarity is your resistance. Your calm is your power. And your truth is not for sale, not even to the fear that screams the loudest. The praise that makes you obey. Imagine someone clapping for you every time you do something they like. At first, it feels encouraging. You feel seen. You feel appreciated. But soon, you realize you are doing things not because they feel right, but because you want that praise again. You want the nod, the approval, the recognition. And without even noticing, you have started to obey. Praise is powerful. It has the ability to shape behavior without punishment. Instead of fear, it offers reward. But when praise is used with intention to direct and to control, it stops being about appreciation. It becomes a leash. You start performing not for your own values, but for the smile in someone else's eyes. You begin to feel uneasy when the praise does not come. You question if you did something wrong. You feel invisible when unnoticed, and so you try harder. You adjust. You comply. This praise often comes from people in authority, a parent, a teacher, a partner, a boss. They may not even realize they are shaping you. They may truly believe they are being supportive. But slowly, you learn to listen more to their applause than your own intuition. It is especially dangerous when the praise is selective, when it only comes after certain behaviors, when it disappears when you express disagreement. It teaches you which parts of yourself are welcome and which should be hidden. It tells you what version of yourself is loved. And in trying to be that version, you forget who you were before the applause. To free yourself from this loop, you must examine your reasons. Why did I choose this path? Is it mine, or was it praised into me? What do I value when no one is watching? Real freedom begins when you act from your own center, not from the echo of someone else's clapping. True praise does not demand obedience. It celebrates authenticity. It does not mold. It mirrors. It does not lead you away from yourself. It walks beside you as you find your way. The regret that shapes choices. Picture a moment in your life you wish you could go back and change. Maybe it was a word you did not say, a step you did not take, a decision that felt safe at the time but now feels like a missed opportunity. That moment lives quietly in your mind, shaping your present without needing to speak. Regret is not always loud. It does not always arrive with tears or screams. Sometimes it whispers. It suggests. It influences your next choice in a way that feels subtle, but deep. It becomes a compass not pointing to truth, but to avoidance. You begin to choose not what excites you, but what protects you. You avoid paths that look similar to the one that hurt you. You say no before life has even asked you to say yes. Regret becomes your advisor, and its advice always leans toward caution. This shaping is tricky, because it feels like wisdom. It feels like learning. And in some ways, it is. But wisdom rooted in fear is still fear. If regret teaches you to be smaller, it is not guiding you. It is guarding you. Some people stay in jobs they dislike because they once left one too quickly. Some stay in relationships that feel empty because they regret breaking someone else's heart before. Others never try again because regret told them the fall is worse than not moving at all. But regret only knows the past. It cannot see your strength now. It cannot measure your growth. It only reminds you of pain and assumes it still fits. To live fully, you must take back your decisions. You must recognize where regret has become a ghost in your present. You must learn to thank it for the lesson, and then choose not from fear, but from clarity. Because regret may shape your past, but it does not own your future. The excuse that hides motives. Imagine someone repeatedly failing to show up for you, but always with a good excuse. They were busy, they were tired, they had a lot going on, and each time you accept it. Because the excuse makes sense, it feels valid, but somewhere deep inside you start to question, is it really about what they are saying, or is something else underneath? Excuses can be soft lies, not always meant to deceive others, but often made to protect ourselves. When we do not want to confront our own motives, we build stories that explain away the uncomfortable truth. We say we forgot, but we really avoided. We say we are too busy, but we just did not care enough. We say we meant to, but never intended to follow through. These excuses are often believable. That is what makes them powerful. They give just enough reason to avoid blame, while still allowing the real motive to remain hidden. Sometimes, the person we are hiding from is ourselves. We tell ourselves we are being responsible, when we are really being fearful. We say we are protecting someone else, when we are protecting our image. We say we are confused, when we are actually clear, but afraid of what that clarity demands. The more we use excuses, the more distant we become from our own truth. We start to believe our own cover stories, and in doing so, we lose touch with our real desires, our real boundaries, and our real responsibilities. To see through the excuse, ask deeper questions. What am I really afraid of? What am I trying to protect? What would I say if I trusted the other person with my truth? Honesty is difficult. It risks discomfort. It risks confrontation. But it also creates freedom. Because only when you stop hiding behind excuses can you begin to act from integrity. The truth does not always sound nice, but it sets the foundation for a life that is real. The blame that builds loyalty. Picture a group of people bonded not by shared love, but by shared blame. They gather around a common enemy, a person, a system, an outsider, and in blaming that target, they feel united. They feel loyal. They feel safe. But what if that loyalty is not truth, but manipulation? Blame can be a glue. It gives people a reason to stand together. It creates sides. It creates clarity in a world that often feels complex. If we are right, and they are wrong, then our choices make sense. Our actions are justified. Our group is good. This is how blame becomes a tool. It is used not just to explain, but to recruit. People in power often create loyalty by pointing to a threat. They say, "We must stick together, because look at what they did to us." And in that fear, in that anger, people stop questioning. They start defending. Blame builds identity. It tells you who you are by telling you who you are not. And once you accept that story, you begin to see everything through it. Doubt becomes disloyalty. Questioning becomes betrayal. You start to protect the group, even when it hurts you. This dynamic shows up in families, in companies, in politics. A leader makes a mistake but blames another, and those who follow feel the need to believe it, to stay part of the group. Because the cost of seeing the truth might be losing your place. But real loyalty does not demand blindness. It does not ask you to carry someone else's guilt. It allows space for truth, even when it is painful. It holds together not because of shared blame, but because of shared honesty. To break free, you must be willing to see what is real, even if it means standing alone for a while. Because loyalty rooted in truth is strong. But loyalty built on blame is only as strong as the lie it protects. The doubt that grows roots. Imagine planting a small seed in a quiet corner of your mind. It is just a thought, a question, a maybe. But over time it grows. It sends roots deep into your decisions, your confidence, your dreams. And before you realize it, you are living in the shadow of a doubt you never meant to keep. Doubt is natural. It keeps us humble. It keeps us cautious. But when it stays too long, it changes us. It becomes part of how we see the world. We stop asking, "Is this doubt useful?" and we start believing this doubt is truth. It often begins with something small, a failed attempt, a harsh comment, a moment of fear. And instead of letting it pass, we hold it. We feed it with hesitation. We water it with second guessing. And it grows. This doubt does not shout. It whispers. It says, maybe you are not ready. Maybe you are not good enough. Maybe you should wait. And slowly, those whispers become beliefs. They shape your choices. They narrow your path. Sometimes this doubt is given to us by others. A parent who only praises perfection. A friend who always questions your goals. A society that tells you to stay in your lane. And we take that doubt and make it our own. But doubt, like any thought, can be examined. You can ask, where did this come from? Is it mine? Is it true? You can begin to trace its roots and decide which ones you want to keep, because not all doubt deserves to stay. Some was planted by fear, not wisdom. Some was shaped by pain, not truth, and you have the right to uproot it. Confidence does not mean never doubting. It means choosing not to live by doubt alone. The memory that betrays. Imagine remembering something so clearly that you would bet your life on it. A conversation, a promise, a moment of pain, and then someone tells you it never happened, or that it happened differently. You check again in your mind. The feeling is there. The picture is vivid. But still, you start to wonder, can your own memory be trusted? Memory feels solid. It feels like proof. But it is not a recording. It is a reconstruction. A story built from fragments, emotions, context. And because of that, it can betray you. Sometimes, memory makes things seem better than they were. A relationship feels sweeter. A mistake feels smaller. Other times, it does the opposite. It magnifies the pain. It adds weight to a moment that, in truth, was lighter. This betrayal is not intentional. It is how the mind works. It edits. It fills in gaps. It colors moments with meaning. And when emotion is strong, memory becomes even more slippery. People can also shape your memory. They tell you their version so often that you begin to doubt your own. They say, that is not what happened. You are exaggerating. You are being dramatic. And slowly, you start to erase yourself to fit their reality. But your memory, even when imperfect, holds a truth. Maybe not in facts, but in feeling. Maybe not in details, but in impact. And that truth deserves to be honored. To live clearly, you must learn to hold memory gently, to accept its beauty and its flaws, to check it but not abandon it, and to trust your own sense of self, even when others try to rewrite your story. Because memory may shift, but your inner voice, your lived experience, that is where your truth lives. The confidence that shatters. Imagine a person walking into a room, their shoulders high, their voice steady, their eyes full of belief. People turn to look, some smile, some nod. On the outside, it looks like confidence. But what happens when that confidence is built not from the inside, but from applause, from recognition, from the need to prove something? What happens when that confidence, once questioned or criticized, begins to collapse? True confidence is not always loud. It is not always visible. It is quiet and steady. It survives in silence. But the kind that shatters is often made of mirrors. It looks like strength, but it is shaped by how others respond. It depends on praise. It feeds on validation, and because of this, it becomes fragile. A single rejection can shake it. A small failure can break it. This is the confidence that lives on edge. The danger of this kind of confidence is that it tricks even the person who holds it. They may feel powerful, capable, even unstoppable. But the strength is not rooted in truth. It is borrowed, and anything borrowed can be taken away. The moment someone doubts them, the moment the results do not come, the belief begins to wobble. It was not confidence. It was performance. This is often learned early. A child praised only when they succeed. A student rewarded only when they win. A young adult noticed only when they impress. Over time, they begin to link their worth with their outcomes, not with their effort, not with their values, but with how they are seen. And so they build confidence, not from self-trust, but from external proof. That proof is temporary. It fades. And when it does, they are left with silence. And in that silence, the shattering begins. When confidence is real, it does not break under pressure. It bends. It adjusts. It reflects. But when it is built only on approval or success, it cannot survive failure. It turns inward. It begins to blame. It begins to doubt everything. This is where shame lives. Not because the person is weak, but because they never built their foundation from the inside. To grow a confidence that lasts, one must first accept being unseen. One must be okay with failure, with silence, with slow progress. Because real confidence is not about being the best. It is about knowing who you are even when things fall apart. It is about trusting your voice even when no one claps. It is about standing still when the applause stops. The confidence that shatters can be rebuilt, but it must be built from truth, not from charm. Not from achievements, but from the quiet decision to believe in yourself even when there is no one around to agree. That is where the real power begins. And once you find that, no one can take it from you. The choice that isn't yours. Picture this man standing at a fork in the road, two paths ahead, one quiet, one bright. He looks at both. He pauses. He feels the weight of decision, but then he realizes something. The paths may be different, but the feeling is the same. He never really chose to be here, and whichever way he turns, the choice was made long ago. This is the trap of the choice that isn't yours. On the surface, we all appear to be making decisions every day. What to say, where to go, who to trust. But underneath many of those choices are layers we did not see, beliefs we were taught, fears we inherited, expectations placed upon us before we knew what they meant. And so what looks like freedom becomes a script, a carefully shaped illusion of control. People often ask, why did I do that? Why did I stay? Why did I walk away? And when they answer, they may say, it felt right, or it felt like the only option. And that is often true, but it is not always because it was their real choice. It was because the environment shaped it to feel right. The pressure made it feel necessary. The fear made it feel urgent. And the freedom to say no was never really there. This happens in families. In friendships, in society, we are told we are free to choose, but some choices come with heavy costs, disapproval, distance, loneliness. So we adjust. We choose the safer path. And we tell ourselves we are being wise. But deep down, we feel the loss. The quiet echo of something that was not ours. The choice that is not yours often carries a feeling, a tightness, a lack of joy, a sense of distance from yourself. And yet, you go through with it. Because the alternative feels too risky. Because no one ever showed you what it looked like to choose from within. This is how people end up in places that do not feel like home. In lives that look right but feel wrong. In jobs, in roles, in habits. All chosen without truly being chosen. To reclaim your ability to choose, you must first see the invisible hands guiding you. Ask where this desire came from. Ask what fear is pushing you. Ask what voice echoes in your mind when you make decisions. Is it yours, or is it someone else's idea of who you should be? Real freedom starts with noticing the weight in your chest, noticing the quiet resentment, noticing the dreams you buried. You do not have to change everything all at once. But you can start by saying no to what never felt right, and yes to what feels like you, even if it is small, even if it is uncertain. Because the only way to know who you are is to choose from that place. The choice may not be easy, but at least it will be yours. The voice that pretends to care. Picture a person who says all the right things. They nod at the right moments. Their words sound gentle. Their tone is soft. They ask if you are okay. But something feels off. Their presence is not comforting. Their questions do not feel real. The care sounds like an echo instead of a connection. This is the voice that pretends to care. It is a strange experience. Being around someone who seems kind but makes you feel alone. It is confusing, because your mind tells you they are being supportive, but your heart feels distant. That is because true care cannot be faked. It cannot be performed. It is something you feel in the silence between words. In the way someone listens without needing to speak. In the way they hold space without turning the spotlight back on themselves. The voice that pretends to care often uses empathy as a tool, not to connect, but to influence, to appear trustworthy, to gain something. Sometimes it is praise, sometimes it is power. Sometimes it is the illusion of being a good person. But the focus is never truly on you. It is always about the story they are building around themselves. You might notice it in the way they interrupt, in the way they quickly give advice instead of listening, in the way they shift the conversation back to their own pain, in the way they remember details only when it benefits them. And over time, this kind of voice leaves you feeling smaller, less seen, more guarded, because you sense that your vulnerability is being used, not honored. Real care is not about perfect words. It is about presence. It is about being willing to sit with someone in silence, to ask without needing a reward, to listen without turning it into a performance. And when someone does this, you feel it. You feel safe. You feel heard. You feel real. To protect yourself from the voice that pretends to care, you have to trust what your body tells you. Pay attention to how you feel after the conversation. Do you feel lighter? Or do you feel drained? Do you feel seen? Or do you feel like a background character in someone else's story? You deserve care that is not wrapped in performance. You deserve space where your words are not props. You deserve presence that is honest. And if someone cannot offer that, it is okay to step back. You do not have to explain. You do not have to fight. You just have to honor the truth that real care does not need to pretend, the applause that burdens. Imagine standing on a stage and hearing people cheer for you. At first it feels good, energizing, like you matter, like you are finally being seen. But as the applause continues, you begin to feel something else. Pressure, expectation, a weight, not because they are cheering for you, but because now you have to live up to it. You have to keep them clapping. You have to keep performing. This is the burden of applause. Recognition feels like a reward, but sometimes it becomes a trap. When people begin to admire you for who they think you are, it becomes hard to show who you really are. You start to feel like an image, a symbol, a role, not a person. You become afraid to fail, afraid to change, afraid to rest. Because what if the applause stops? This is common for people who are praised early, for being smart, for being strong, for being kind. The praise becomes an identity, and slowly it becomes a responsibility. You start to feel like you have to hold everything together, even when you are tired, even when you are hurting. Because you do not want to let anyone down. The applause can come from family, from followers, from friends. It can come from strangers who only know the version of you that inspires them. And the more applause you get, the more you feel watched. And the more you feel watched, the less freedom you feel. This is how celebration becomes pressure, and how success becomes a prison. To live freely, you must separate your worth from the noise. Applause is not a promise. It does not mean you owe people a performance. It does not mean you have to be perfect. It is okay to step off the stage. It is okay to be quiet. It is okay to change your mind. The people who truly care will stay, even when you are not shining, even when you are not giving. You are not here to entertain. You are here to exist, to explore, to rest, to create from a place of joy, not from the fear of losing approval. When you begin to trust that you are still enough without applause, you begin to breathe again. And in that space, your real voice can return. Not the one that performs, but the one that simply speaks. The hope that hooks. Imagine someone offering you a rope while you are drowning. You grab it. You pull yourself closer. You start to believe that safety is near, but instead of pulling you out, they just hold you in place. The rope becomes a tether. The hope becomes a hook. You are not being rescued. You are being kept. Hope is beautiful. It keeps people alive. It helps us endure. But when it is offered without intention, when it is dangled like a promise with no plan, it becomes manipulation. It keeps you holding on, waiting, believing that something will change, even when all signs say it will not. This is the hope that hooks. It gives you just enough to stay, just enough to try again, just enough to silence your doubt. It can come from a partner who always says things will get better, from a leader who promises change but delivers excuses, from a system that tells you to keep working hard even though the rewards never come. You begin to invest more, emotionally, physically, mentally, because you believe you are close. You believe the future will make the present worth it, but nothing really shifts. And when you finally question it, you are told to keep believing, to stay positive, to trust the process. This is how the hook tightens. To free yourself, you must look at the pattern. Hope without movement is not progress. It is sedation. It numbs your instincts. It quiets your questions. And it keeps you tied to a reality that does not change. Real hope does not need to be pushed. It shows itself through action, through effort, through shared responsibility. You are allowed to walk away from a future that keeps you stuck in a painful present. You are allowed to ask for more than words. You are allowed to release the rope, because the ones who truly want to pull you to shore will not keep you waiting. They will not need you to keep hoping. They will show you with their hands, not just their voice. The hope that hooks is strong, but your clarity is stronger. And once you see the difference, you are no longer caught. You are free. The secret that sours. Imagine carrying something in your heart that you cannot say out loud. A secret that once felt necessary to protect now feels like a weight. It lingers. It goes. It hides in the pauses between conversations. and slowly it begins to sour. Secrets can begin as shields. We keep them to avoid hurting others, to protect ourselves, to keep peace. But some secrets do not stay quiet. They grow in the silence. They rot in the dark. And eventually, they affect everything around them. At first, you may feel safe. The secret gives you control. It keeps chaos at bay. But soon, that control becomes a prison. Every interaction must be measured, every word chosen carefully. The fear of being found out begins to shape how you behave. And without realizing it, you are no longer free. The souring starts when the secret begins to interfere with truth. You cannot speak fully. You avoid honesty. You smile when you want to cry. And, in doing so, you create a distance between who you are and who they think you are. This disconnection is where the pain begins, not just for you, but for the people around you. They sense something is off. They feel a gap they cannot name. Trust begins to erode, even if they do not know why. The room becomes heavy, even when nothing is said. Sometimes, the secret is not even about something terrible. It is just something deeply personal. But the longer it is held, the more power it gains, and the more it shapes your reality. Letting go of a secret does not always mean telling everyone. It can mean sharing it with one person. It can mean writing it down. It can mean facing it honestly within yourself. Because what poisons the soul is not always the thing itself, but the way we carry it, and the moment we allow light to touch what has been hidden, we begin to heal. The scarcity that fools. Picture this. You are walking through a market. Two stalls are selling the same fruit. One has an overflowing basket, the other has only a few left. Even if they taste the same, you are drawn to the one with less. You feel urgency. You feel the need to act now. This is the power of scarcity. Scarcity fools us. It makes things appear more valuable just because they are rare, or because they seem limited. It pushes us to act quickly, to take before thinking, to believe that what is scarce must be good. This idea is used everywhere, in marketing, in relationships, in decisions. We are told something is only available for a short time, that someone is one of a kind, that opportunities do not repeat. And so we rush, we settle, we cling. But not everything that is rare is good, and not everything that is abundant is worthless. Scarcity creates pressure. It clouds judgment. It replaces clarity with urgency, and in that rush, we often ignore our real needs. In relationships, scarcity can make us stay with people who treat us poorly. We think, what if no one else comes? What if this is the best I can have? That fear keeps us in places we should have outgrown. In decisions, it can lead us to take jobs we do not want, buy things we do not need, agree to things we do not believe in, all because we were told time is running out. But what if we paused? What if we questioned the urgency? What if we asked ourselves, do I want this because I value it, or because I fear missing it? True value does not need pressure. It holds its worth even when you have time to think. And when we learn to slow down, to breathe, to trust that there is enough, we begin to choose with wisdom. Scarcity may whisper in your ear, but you do not have to listen. The empathy that steals. Imagine feeling deeply for someone you care about. Their sadness becomes your sadness. Their fear becomes your fear. You want to help. You want to heal. But slowly, you start to lose yourself in their pain. Empathy is one of the most beautiful human traits. It connects us. It allows us to understand one another. But when empathy turns into absorption, it stops being helpful. It becomes a weight, and sometimes that weight is used against you. The empathy that steals does not look like a trap. It looks like love. It looks like care, but it drains you. It makes you carry emotions that are not yours. It convinces you that helping someone else means sacrificing yourself. Some people recognize this and use it. They see your open heart and step inside. They do not ask for support. They expect it. They lean on you so hard that you forget how to stand on your own. And every time you try to take a step back, they remind you of how much they need you. This is not always cruel. Sometimes people are just in deep pain. But when helping them begins to harm you, when their emotions start to replace your own, your empathy has been turned against you. You begin to feel guilty for setting boundaries. You feel selfish for resting. You feel cold for saying no. And that guilt keeps you trapped. But empathy should not mean losing your center. You can care without carrying. You can support without sinking. You can love someone deeply and still protect your own light. To find balance, you must learn where you end and they begin. You must trust that helping does not mean erasing yourself. Because real connection is not built on sacrifice. It is built on shared strength. And the strongest empathy is the kind that feels deeply, but does not forget who it is. The criticism that claws. Picture a child showing their drawing to someone they love. The child smiles, proud of their creation. But the adult frowns and says, "Why is the sky green?" The child's smile fades. That one comment claws into their joy, and they never draw the same way again. Criticism can shape us, but when it is constant, sharp, or poorly given, it does not shape, it wounds. And the scars it leaves are invisible but deep. There is a kind of criticism that helps us grow. It is thoughtful, it is kind, it offers insight. But then, there is the kind that claws. It finds weakness and pokes at it. It does not aim to improve, it aims to control. This criticism often comes from those closest to us, a parent, a partner, a teacher, a friend. They may think they are helping, but their words sink into our skin and stay there. You start hearing their voice in your own head. Before you even act, you criticize yourself. You hold back, you edit. You lose your spark. And even when they are no longer around, their echo lives in you. This kind of criticism does not stop at actions. It attacks identity. You are too sensitive. You are always wrong. You are never enough. These messages replay until you believe them. To break free, you must learn to separate useful feedback from harmful words. You must ask, is this helping me or hurting me? Does this come from care or from control? And you must learn to speak to yourself differently, to replace their voice with your own. A voice that is kind, that sees effort, that allows mistakes without punishment. Because growth does not come from fear, it comes from support. And the most powerful thing you can do is unlearn the words that try to keep you small. The story that cages you. Imagine being told a story about yourself so many times that you begin to believe it. You are the shy one, the troublemaker, the responsible one, the failure, the star. At first, these stories help explain who you are, but over time they start to define what you are allowed to be. We all live in stories, stories about our past, our worth, our identity. But some of these stories were never ours to begin with. They were written by others, and we accepted them not because they were true, but because they were repeated. The story that cages you is the one that limits your choices. It says, people like you do not do things like that. It says you cannot change. It says this is who you are forever. This story may have been built from real moments. A failure, a success, a role you had to play. But even a true moment does not need to become a permanent label. Sometimes we hold on to these stories because they give us identity. Even a painful story can feel safe because it is familiar. It gives us a script. It tells us what to expect. But in doing so, it robs us of the chance to grow. To escape the cage, you must become the author. You must ask, who told me this story? Why did I believe it? Is it still true today? And then, you write a new one that includes your past but does not limit your future. One that honors your pain but celebrates your strength. Because the story you tell yourself shapes the life you live. And when you change the story, you change everything. The gift that demands. Picture receiving a beautiful gift, wrapped with care, given with a smile. You thank the giver, touched by their thoughtfulness. But later you hear, after everything I have done for you, and you realize the gift came with a price. Some gifts are not gifts. They are contracts. They look generous, but underneath they hold expectations. I gave this to you. Now I expect loyalty. I helped you. Now you owe me. I supported you. Now you cannot leave. This kind of gift is a trap. It creates a debt where there should be freedom. It replaces gratitude with guilt. At first, you feel special, chosen, seen. But later, you feel watched, measured, controlled. Every decision you make is weighed against what was given to you, and every act of independence is seen as betrayal. People who give in this way may not even realize what they are doing. They have learned that giving is a form of power, and they use it to bind, not to bless. You start to second-guess your actions. You feel pressure to repay in ways that were never spoken. You feel guilty for setting boundaries, and the gift, which once felt like love, now feels like a leash. To break this pattern, you must examine your feelings. Does this gift bring you closer to yourself or further away? Do you feel free after receiving or more controlled? Real generosity asks for nothing in return. It comes from fullness, not from lack, and the only thing it creates is space. Space to grow, to move, to choose, because love does not demand proof. And gifts are not meant to imprison, the reward that punishes. Imagine working hard for something, finally reaching the goal, and instead of feeling joy, you feel emptier than before. You got the reward, but it cost you more than you expected. There is a kind of reward that punishes. It looks like success, but it feels like loss. It looks like achievement, but it carries exhaustion. It promises happiness, but delivers pressure. This reward is often tied to performance. If you do well, you are praised, promoted, loved, but only if you keep doing well. The moment you slow down, rest, fail, the reward is threatened. You start to work not for joy, but to avoid disappointment. You say yes even when you are tired. You smile even when you are breaking, because the reward has become a condition for love, for worth, for safety. In some cases, this happens early. A child praised only when they are perfect. A student celebrated only for top marks. A worker valued only for output. And they learn that they are not loved for who they are, but for what they produce. Over time, the reward becomes a prison. You cannot stop. You cannot breathe. Because everything you have is tied to what you do. To step out of this trap, you must find your value beyond performance. You must allow yourself to be loved in stillness, to rest without guilt, to fail without shame. Because real reward does not punish. It nourishes. It lifts. It reminds you that you are enough even before the prize. The habit that hollowed you. Imagine a person waking up every morning and reaching for something they do not even think about anymore. Maybe it is their phone. Maybe it is a routine word they say. Maybe it is a small decision that once was conscious, but now just happens. Over time, it feels normal. It feels automatic. But little by little, something inside begins to thin. A sense of being fully alive starts to dim. They do not notice it at first, but a quiet hollowing is taking place. Habits shape us. They are the invisible architects of our days. Most of them are small. Most are harmless. But some are dangerous not because they are big, but because they are subtle. They take pieces of us without asking. A habit might be pleasing everyone before thinking of yourself. A habit might be saying yes when you mean no. A habit might be putting off what matters most because comfort feels safer. Each time it happens, a piece of authenticity is chipped away. The habit that hollows you does not scream. It whispers. It hides inside good intentions. It uses the language of survival. I am being polite. I am being careful. I am just being realistic. And slowly, you lose the sharpness of your own voice. You become a softer version of yourself, not out of peace, but out of erosion. The danger of these habits is that they rarely feel urgent. They let you delay. They let you drift. And before you realize it, the things that once made you vibrant begin to fade. Your dreams feel childish. Your anger feels inappropriate. Your desires feel inconvenient. You convince yourself this is maturity. But often, it is just slow surrender. To heal from the habit that hollowed you, you must first notice it. Trace back the small things you do without thinking. Ask yourself what feeling you are avoiding each time. Discomfort, rejection, judgment. It is not enough to break the habit. You have to meet the fear it was protecting you from. Only then can you begin to rebuild. You are not too far gone. The pieces you lost are not gone forever. They are waiting, and every small act of choice, every moment of conscious action brings them closer. The habit that hollowed you once felt safe, but you do not need safety that costs you your soul. You need a life that feels full again. And it begins with a single decision to wake up and choose. The threat that sounds sweet. Picture a person standing in front of you, their words dripping with kindness, their voice soft, their eyes caring. But the message they deliver is not love. It is fear. It is control. It is a warning wrapped in velvet. You feel the pressure, but it is hidden behind a smile. This is the threat that sounds sweet. It is one of the most confusing experiences, because the human mind is trained to trust warmth. When someone sounds kind, we lean in, we lower our guard. But not all softness is safety. Sometimes it is strategy. A way to deliver control without causing resistance. A way to make the chains feel like bracelets. The threat that sounds sweet often comes with phrases like, I am just looking out for you. I am only saying this because I care. You would not want to disappoint everyone, would you? It uses your longing for belonging. It uses your fear of loneliness. It uses your hope for approval. And it traps you gently. You may feel a slight tension when you hear it, a tightening in your gut, a pull in your chest. You know something is wrong, but it feels rude to question it. After all, they said it so nicely. But the message underneath is not kindness. It is clear. Stay small. Stay quiet. Stay within the lines drawn for you. Over time, if you accept enough of these sweet threats, you begin to internalize them. You become your own jailer. You tell yourself the same things. Be careful. Do not want too much. Do not be too loud. You mistake obedience for wisdom. You mistake silence for maturity. And a part of you slowly fades. To break free, you must learn to listen not just to the tone, but to the impact. Not just to the words, but to the message hidden inside. Care does not make you smaller. True care does not need to scare you. True advice does not threaten your right to choose. You have the right to question sweetness that stings. You have the right to step away from voices that use care as a cage. You are not selfish for wanting freedom. You are not wrong for wanting to grow. The threat that sounds sweet loses its power when you recognize that love does not manipulate. It liberates. The approval that addicts. Imagine a person doing something small and being praised loudly. It feels good. It feels like sunlight on their skin. They want more, so they do it again. Another compliment, another nod. And soon, without realizing, they are chasing it. They are building their identity on the rush of being approved. This is the approval that addicts. Approval feels innocent. It feels harmless. But it becomes dangerous when it becomes necessary, when your sense of worth begins to depend on how many people clap, when your choices start to orbit around what will earn applause. You lose touch with your inner compass. You begin to live externally. The approval that addicts works like any other addiction. It offers immediate pleasure. It numbs discomfort. It gives you a temporary sense of belonging. but it demands more over time. It becomes harder to feel okay without it. You start making decisions based not on what you love, but on what will be liked. You start hiding parts of yourself that might not be approved. You might stay in a job you hate because it sounds impressive. You might stay in a relationship that looks good from the outside. You might suppress dreams that seem too risky, all because the applause feels safer than the unknown. And when the applause fades, as it always does, the withdrawal begins. You feel empty. You feel anxious. You feel invisible. This is not failure. This is the natural outcome of living for external validation. No amount of approval can fill a space that is meant to be filled from within. To heal from the approval that addicts, you must start doing things that no one sees. You must create without posting. You must grow without announcing. You must learn to sit in your own silence without reaching for a reaction. Your worth is not a vote. It is not a measurement. It is not a number. It is a quiet, steady thing that lives inside you whether anyone sees it or not. The approval that addicts may feel powerful, but your truth is stronger. And once you begin to trust yourself again, you will find a peace that applause can never offer. The truth that twists. Imagine hearing a story that feels almost right, but not quite. It holds pieces of truth, enough to make it believable, but something inside you hesitates. The facts are there, but the feeling is wrong. This is the truth that twists. Twisting the truth is more effective than telling a lie. Lies are easier to spot. But when someone uses pieces of truth to manipulate, it becomes harder to question. You doubt your instincts. You start to believe that maybe you are the one who is confused. The truth that twists is often used by those who want to control without appearing controlling. They present facts selectively. They tell parts of the story. They hide important context. They exaggerate some details and minimize others. And in doing so, they shape your perception without ever saying anything technically false. This is common in manipulation, in abusive relationships, in toxic workplaces, in systems of control. The truth is not denied. It is distorted. And because there is truth inside it, it becomes harder to resist. You may find yourself defending someone you are not sure you trust. You may find yourself staying in a situation that feels wrong because the story sounds right. You may silence your own doubts because the evidence seems to support what you are being told. But your body knows. Your intuition feels the twist even when your mind cannot explain it. Pay attention to that feeling. Pay attention to the gaps. Pay attention to what is being left out. Truth should bring clarity, not confusion. It should make you feel stronger, not smaller. When truth becomes a tool for control, it stops being truth. It becomes a weapon. You have the right to question narratives that do not feel whole. You have the right to gather your own facts. You have the right to walk away from half-truths that chain you. The truth that twists cannot survive full light. And once you choose to see everything, you begin to untwist the lie. The flaw that becomes identity. Imagine a small mistake made long ago. Maybe a careless word, maybe a forgotten promise, maybe a moment of weakness. At first, it was just an event, something that happened. But over time, it became something more. It became a story you told yourself. It became a label others whispered. It became part of who you thought you were. This is the flaw that becomes identity. At first, flaws feel separate from who we are. We recognize them. We acknowledge them. But we do not become them. Then slowly, through repetition, shame, and memory, the line between what we did and who we are begins to blur. The flaw gets repeated in jokes. It gets brought up in arguments. It gets used as proof of our limits. And somewhere along the way, we stop seeing the flaw as a piece of us and start seeing it as all of us. You are not responsible. You are careless. You are not struggling. You are weak. You are not learning. You are stupid. These shifts in language matter. They carve grooves in the mind. They make certain futures feel impossible. They make hope feel foolish. And worst of all, they make growth feel like betrayal. Because if you improve, who are you without the flaw that defined you? Sometimes it is not even other people who do this to us. Sometimes we do it to ourselves. We carry the old wound like a shield. We tell ourselves it protects us from disappointment. We say it keeps us humble, but really, it keeps us trapped. It keeps us from becoming someone new. You are not your worst moment. You are not your worst mistake. You are not your flaw. You are the one who lived through it. You are the one who can learn from it. You are the one who can move beyond it. Healing starts by separating behavior from identity. You made a mistake. That does not make you a mistake. You struggled. That does not make you broken. You hurt someone. That does not make you unworthy of love. These are truths you must repeat until the grooves of shame begin to smooth out. The flaw that becomes identity can feel permanent, but it is not. You have the right to tell a new story about yourself, one that honors the pain without being trapped by it, one that remembers the mistake without being defined by it. You are more than any single moment. You are still unfolding. You are still becoming. You are not your flaw. You are your freedom to grow beyond it. The regret that repeats. Picture a man standing in the middle of two mirrors facing each other. He looks at his reflection, then behind it, another reflection, and behind that, another. Each one a little smaller, a little further away, but all repeating the same image. This is how regret works. A memory replayed so often that it becomes a hall of mirrors. A moment relived so many times that it becomes a pattern. This is the regret that repeats. At first, regret feels like a lesson. We make a mistake. We feel pain. We learn. But when regret repeats, it no longer teaches. It torments. It becomes a cycle. You think about what you should have done differently. You think about what you lost. You think about the opportunity you missed. And every time you revisit it, the memory grows sharper instead of softer. The mind tells itself that by replaying the event, it can fix it. That if you think hard enough, you can rewrite the past. But that is not how memory works. Thinking does not heal regret. It deepens it. It makes the feeling more vivid. It makes the wound deeper. And slowly, you begin to live more in the memory than in the present. You might see this in relationships you cannot let go of, in opportunities you believe you ruined, in conversations you replay again and again, wishing you had said something different. But the past does not change. Only the story you tell yourself about it does. Regret that repeats feeds on self-punishment. It tells you that you are being responsible by feeling guilty, that you are being moral by suffering. But suffering is not justice. Suffering is not growth. Suffering is only suffering. To break the cycle, you must forgive the version of yourself who made the mistake. You must understand that you did the best you could with what you knew and who you were at the time. Growth is not about erasing regret. It is about integrating it. It is about carrying the lesson without carrying the shame. The regret that repeats will lose its power when you stop believing you deserve to hurt. You deserve to heal. You deserve to move forward. You deserve to live in a present that is not chained to a past you can no longer touch. The mirror of regret may be endless, but you have the power to turn away from it and step into a future made not of what you lost, but of what you still can create. The obedience that feels free. Imagine a bird sitting in a cage with the door wide open. It can leave at any time, but it does not. It stays perched. It sings softly. It feels safe. It feels free. But it does not realize that true freedom would mean flying into the unknown. This is the obedience that feels free. There are forms of obedience that are obvious. Chains, punishments, commands. But the most powerful obedience is the one you do not notice. It is the one that feels like your own choice. It is the one that wraps itself in the language of responsibility, of wisdom, of caution. You think you are choosing, but the choices were shaped long before you arrived. You think you are free, but your paths have been carefully paved. You think you are independent, but your fears have been fed to you from the beginning. This kind of obedience is taught through subtle rewards. Approval for following the script, praise for staying within the lines, comfort for not questioning too much. It feels easier to conform than to rebel. It feels safer to agree than to challenge. And so you tell yourself you are being smart. You tell yourself you are being mature. You tell yourself you are being good. But deep down, you feel a tightness, a small ache, a whisper that says there might be more. The obedience that feels free is the hardest to break because it does not feel like oppression. It feels like a good life, a safe life, a reasonable life. And to question it feels ungrateful. It feels foolish. But true freedom is not the absence of discomfort. It is the presence of choice. Real choice. Not shaped by fear, not shaped by expectation, but chosen by you. You have the right to question the rules you were given. You have the right to explore paths you were warned against. You have the right to ask whether the cage is really necessary. Freedom will feel scary at first. It always does, because it means facing the unknown without guarantees. It means losing the soft approval of those who preferred you silent. But it also means finding your real voice. It means flying without permission. The obedience that feels free is powerful, but your longing for truth is more powerful still. And once you taste real choice, the cage will never feel like home again. The panic that paints loyalty. Picture a fire alarm going off. Loud, urgent, people running, chaos everywhere. In that moment, you grab the hand of the person closest to you. You do not ask if you trust them. You do not ask if they are leading you somewhere safe. You just follow. This is how panic paints loyalty. In moments of fear, the mind craves certainty. It craves leadership. It craves someone to follow. Panic narrows vision. It makes complexity disappear. It replaces questions with action. And in that rush, loyalty is born. Not because it is earned, but because it is needed. This is why fear is such a powerful tool for manipulation. Leaders use it to rally support. Abusive partners use it to isolate. Systems use it to justify control. Panic creates a bond. But it is a bond born from survival, not from truth. You might see this in movements that rise quickly, in relationships that escalate fast, in decisions made under pressure. The loyalty feels deep. It feels real, but it is painted by panic. It is shaped by fear. And once the fear fades, so does the connection. Panic loyalty is dangerous because it feels noble. You think you are being brave. You think you are being loyal, but often you are just scared. And someone else is guiding your fear for their own purpose. To break free from panic loyalty, you must learn to pause even when everything inside you screams to move. You must learn to breathe even when the world feels like it is falling apart. You must ask, who benefits from my fear? Who gains from my loyalty? True loyalty is slow. It is built over time. It survives doubt. It welcomes questions. It is not afraid of silence. Panic loyalty demands immediate allegiance. True loyalty invites patience. You are allowed to step back. You are allowed to think. You are allowed to rebuild trust slowly. Loyalty is a beautiful thing when it is chosen freely. It is a dangerous thing when it is forged in fear. The panic that paints loyalty may be loud, but your wisdom is louder. Your courage is deeper. And your freedom is not something anyone else has the right to claim. The comfort that costs everything. Imagine sinking into a warm chair after a long day. The softness wraps around you, inviting you to stay. At first it feels like relief, like safety, like home. But if you stay too long, you begin to notice something else. You are stuck. The comfort that once healed now holds you captive. Comfort is necessary. It gives us a place to rest, to recover. But when comfort becomes a place where we hide, it begins to cost us more than it gives. It costs us growth. It costs us courage. It costs us life. It starts innocently. You choose the familiar path because it feels easier. You avoid risks because they seem unnecessary. You say, I am happy where I am. But deep inside, a small voice whispers, you are shrinking. Comfort can dull ambition. It can numb curiosity. It can convince you that what you have is all you deserve. And slowly, dreams begin to fade. Challenges start to feel dangerous. Change becomes an enemy. People often cling to comfort because they fear loss, fear pain, fear failure. But in clinging to what feels safe, they lose something far greater. They lose the parts of themselves that could have grown. They lose the future that was waiting beyond the edge of familiarity. Not all comfort is harmful. Rest is essential. But when rest turns into retreat, when comfort demands that you stop moving forward, it is no longer your friend. To live fully, you must be willing to leave the chair sometimes. You must risk discomfort. You must embrace uncertainty. Because the cost of staying safe is often far higher than the cost of trying and failing. True comfort should refuel you, not reduce you. It should prepare you for the next climb, not convince you to avoid it. And the life you seek is rarely found inside the walls of what is easy. The touch that triggers trust. Picture someone placing a hand gently on your shoulder when you are afraid. The simple touch says more than words ever could. It says, you are not alone. You are safe. You are seen. And in that moment, trust blooms almost instantly. Touch is powerful. More powerful than we often realize. It can build bridges where walls once stood. It can calm storms inside a heart. It can say, I am with you, without a single word. But because touch has such power, it can also be used without full honesty. Some understand how a gentle gesture can disarm suspicion, how it can lower defenses, how it can make someone more open, more compliant, more forgiving. Touch, when genuine, strengthens bonds. But when used with hidden intentions, it manipulates bonds. It begins with small gestures, a reassuring pat, a lingering handshake, a comforting hug, and you feel pulled closer even if your mind had questions. The body believes what it feels before it listens to reason. In relationships, touch can deepen trust quickly. But it can also create a false sense of intimacy. A closeness that feels real, but is built on shallow ground. And when the trust is broken, the betrayal cuts even deeper because the body remembers the safety it once felt. Learning to discern requires patience. You must ask yourself, is this touch matched by consistent care? Does this comfort come with respect for my boundaries, or does it feel like an attempt to cross them? Genuine touch supports your autonomy. It does not confuse you. It does not rush you. It holds space for your choice. And when you learn to trust not just the feeling of comfort, but the actions that surround it, you build trust that is real, not triggered. The insult that imitates care. Imagine someone telling you, I am just being honest, you really need to lose some weight. Or, I only say this because I care, but you are not very good at that. The words sting, but they are wrapped in concern. You hesitate. You think, maybe they are right. Maybe this is love. There is an insult that wears the costume of care. It claims to be honesty. It claims to be for your own good. But underneath, it wounds more than it helps. This kind of insult is especially dangerous because it confuses. You are hurt, but you are also made to feel guilty for being hurt. After all, they were just trying to help, right? Over time, these disguised insults erode confidence. They plant seeds of self-doubt. They create a version of love that feels like constant correction, constant improvement, constant failure. People who use this tactic often hide behind the idea of honesty. They say, I am just telling you the truth. But real honesty comes with kindness. Real care considers timing, tone, and trust. The insult that imitates care does not lift you, it lowers you. It does not empower you, it shrinks you. It does not help you grow. It makes you question if you are even capable of growth. To recognize this pattern, listen not just to the words, but to the effect they have on your heart. Real care may be firm sometimes, but it never leaves you feeling small, ashamed, or unworthy. And you have the right to protect yourself from words that wound, even when they wear a mask of love. Because true love builds. It does not break. The fear that sharpens obedience. Imagine standing at the edge of a high ledge with someone shouting instructions behind you. Your heart pounds. Your hands tremble. You obey every word without thinking, because fear is loud. It demands obedience. Fear has always been a tool of survival. It keeps us from danger. It sharpens our senses. But when fear is used by others to control us, it no longer protects, it imprisons. In environments ruled by fear, obedience becomes automatic. You stop questioning. You stop thinking. You stop feeling. You move because standing still feels even more terrifying. This can happen in families, in workplaces, in communities. Leaders may use fear to keep order. Parents may use fear to demand respect. Friends may use fear to prevent abandonment. The danger is that fear sharpens not just obedience, but helplessness. It convinces you that rebellion is impossible, that questioning is dangerous, that change will only bring more pain, and over time, living in fear becomes normal. You forget what it feels like to make choices from hope instead of fear. You accept the rules not because they are right, but because they are safer. But true authority does not need fear to exist. True leadership inspires, not intimidates. True love invites, not commands. To reclaim your voice, you must begin to notice when fear is speaking for you. You must ask, is this choice mine? Or was it forced into my hands by fear? Because living fully means making decisions from clarity, not from terror. And obedience without freedom is not loyalty. It is survival, the doubt that destroys strength. Picture climbing a mountain. You are strong. You are focused. You are halfway to the top. And then a small voice inside whispers, "What if you cannot do this?" You hesitate. Your hands shake. You slip, not because you lacked strength, but because you believed the doubt. Doubt is natural. It checks arrogance. It invites reflection. But when doubt grows unchecked, it becomes a destroyer. It robs you of strength you already had. This doubt often starts outside you. A careless comment, a discouraging glance, a long history of being underestimated. But once planted, it does not need new voices. It grows on its own inside your mind. You begin to second-guess not just big decisions, but small ones. You hesitate before speaking, before trying, before dreaming. You lose momentum. You lose confidence. You lose opportunities that were already within your reach. The tragedy is that doubt lies. It tells you that hesitation is wisdom. That fear is protection. That smallness is safety. But strength, real strength, comes from moving even when the voice says stop. To fight this kind of doubt, you must remember your victories. You must measure progress not by perfection, but by persistence. You must see that every step forward, no matter how shaky, is proof of strength. And you must learn to speak louder than the doubt, even if your voice trembles at first, because strength does not mean never doubting. It means choosing to keep climbing anyway. The praise that prescribes. Imagine someone telling you, "You are so amazing because you are always so selfless." You glow with pride. You feel good. But later, when you want to say no, when you need to set a boundary, you hesitate. Because you have been praised for always giving. Now you feel trapped by the very compliment that once lifted you. Praise, when pure, uplifts. But sometimes it prescribes. It tells you not just who you are, but who you must continue to be. You are the smart one, the strong one, the funny one, the kind one, the dependable one, and each label, even if positive, becomes a rule. When you want to show another side of yourself, you fear disappointing others. You fear losing love. You fear being seen differently. The problem with prescribed praise is that it freezes growth. It says, "This is who you are, and you must stay here to stay loved." True praise sees all of you. It allows for change, for complexity, for mistakes. To free yourself, you must recognize when praise is shaping you instead of celebrating you. You must allow yourself to evolve, even if it surprises those around you. Because you are not a role to be played. You are a soul to be lived. The permission that enslaves. Imagine someone giving you permission to pursue your dream. At first, it feels wonderful. They believe in you. They support you. But slowly, you realize something strange. You are waiting for their permission for every new step, every risk, every change. Without their blessing, you hesitate. Permission can be a kindness. It can offer encouragement. But when it becomes a condition for action, it becomes a cage. Some people offer support not as a gift, but as a leash. They want you to rise, but only in ways they approve. They want you to grow, but only within boundaries they set. And when you internalize this dynamic, you stop trusting yourself. You wait. You second-guess. You live smaller than you are meant to. Freedom means making choices even when no one nods, even when no one cheers, even when people disapprove. True support does not require dependence. It empowers independence. And the dreams worth living are the ones you give yourself permission to pursue, because you were never meant to ask for someone else's approval to become yourself. The need that numbs. Imagine someone standing in the rain, cold and shivering, reaching for anything that promises warmth, a blanket, a shelter, a fire. It does not matter if the thing is clean or safe or even real. The need to escape the cold is stronger than the need to choose carefully. This is how need numbs. There are needs that give life, the need for connection, the need for meaning, the need for expression. These needs move us toward growth. But when need becomes desperate, it becomes dangerous. It no longer leads you forward. It leads you anywhere, even toward things that harm you. The need that numbs is not about satisfaction. It is about survival. When you are hurting deeply enough, you will reach for anything that promises to quiet the pain. A toxic relationship, a bad habit, a numbing behavior. The choice is not about desire. It is about relief. This is why people stay in places that shrink them. This is why people repeat patterns that hurt. Because the immediate comfort feels safer than facing the deeper ache. It is not weakness. It is not stupidity. It is need doing its ancient work, protecting you from feeling everything all at once. But numbing does not heal. It just delays. It just pushes the pain deeper into the body. It just quiets the screaming long enough to survive another day, and over time the cost becomes heavy. You wake up one day realizing you have built a life around coping, not living. The need that numbs teaches you to settle, to shrink your dreams, to lower your standards, to accept less than you deserve. Not because you do not know better, but because the idea of facing the full pain feels unbearable. To heal from this, you must first honor the need. You must understand that it was trying to protect you. You must thank it for getting you this far, but you must also see that you deserve more than survival. You deserve more than quiet. You have the strength to feel the full weight of your pain. You have the courage to sit with your hunger without immediately reaching for the first thing offered. Real healing happens when you choose not just what soothes you, but what strengthens you. The need that numbs will lose its grip when you believe you can survive your own feelings. And you can. You always could. The trap that you guard. Picture a person standing proudly in front of a cage. They built it themselves, decorated it, painted it in colors they love. They even named it freedom. But inside the cage is a part of them they are afraid to let out. They guard the trap as if it were treasure. This is the trap that you guard. It sounds strange. Why would anyone protect what holds them back? Why would anyone defend what limits them? But the mind does not always love what is good for it. It loves what is familiar. It loves what feels safe. And often, the things that hurt us are the same things that once protected us. Maybe it was a belief you learned young. That being small kept you safe. That being silent kept you loved. Maybe it was a coping skill, numbing yourself, doubting yourself, distrusting joy. At one time it served you. It kept you alive. But over time it became a prison. You can know something is hurting you and still cling to it. Because letting go would mean facing the unknown. Letting go would mean losing the identity you built around the pain. Letting go would mean asking, who am I if I am not this? The trap you guard often feels like strength. It feels like protection. It feels like maturity. But in quiet moments, you hear the truth. You feel the tightness. You feel the grief. You feel the part of you still banging on the walls, begging to be let out. It is not betrayal to leave the trap. It is not weakness to question the rules you once needed. Growth requires betrayal of your old survival stories. Growth demands that you risk the discomfort of freedom. To free yourself, you must stop guarding what is killing your spirit. You must risk looking foolish. You must risk being wrong. You must risk losing the old safety to find a new strength. The trap you guard will not collapse because someone tells you to leave it. It will collapse because you finally believe you deserve something beyond survival. And you do. You deserve to live outside the lines you once needed to survive. You deserve to live. The relief that chains. Imagine carrying a heavy weight for hours, your arms trembling, your back aching. Suddenly someone comes and offers to hold it for you. You feel immediate relief. You thank them. You trust them. But after a while, you realize they are not just holding the weight. They are holding you. They are telling you where you can go, what you can do. This is the relief that chains. Relief is powerful. When you are suffering, the first source of ease feels like salvation. You will trust almost anything that lessens the pain. You will commit almost blindly to the hand that offers you rest. This is how dependency forms, not from weakness, from exhaustion. This is how manipulation grows, not from ignorance, from gratitude. The relief that chains is seductive. It tells you that you do not have to carry so much alone. It tells you that you do not have to be strong all the time. And there is truth in that. We do need each other. We do need support. But real support sets you free. Real support strengthens you. Real support reminds you of your own power. It does not ask you to trade your autonomy for comfort. When someone offers relief but demands loyalty, demands silence, demands surrender, they are not helping you. They are chaining you. This happens in relationships where one partner becomes the savior and the other becomes the dependent. This happens in systems that offer security at the cost of freedom. This happens in friendships where one person always plays the role of rescuer but never lets the other grow. You are allowed to accept help without becoming owned by it. You are allowed to receive comfort without sacrificing your voice. The relief that chains feels good at first, but it leaves you smaller, less free, less alive. You have the right to choose support that strengthens you, not support that suffocates you. You are strong enough to rest without surrendering your spirit. You are strong enough to accept help and still walk your own path. The chains may look like comfort, but freedom will always feel better in the end. The nostalgia that binds. Picture someone sitting in an old abandoned house. The roof leaks. The walls creak. The air is heavy with dust. But they stay. Because once, a long time ago, this place was full of laughter and love. They are not living in the present house. They are living in the memory of what it once was. This is the nostalgia that binds. Nostalgia is sweet. It softens the edges of memory. It lets us remember the warmth without the cold. It lets us remember the laughter without the silence. It is a beautiful feeling, but it can also be a trap. When we become attached to a past that no longer exists, we stop living in the present. We stay in relationships that have long since ended emotionally. We stay in places that no longer fit who we are. We stay in versions of ourselves that we have outgrown. Because leaving feels like betrayal. Because moving forward feels like abandoning something sacred. Because the past was good once, and we want to believe it can be good again. But memory is not a contract. It is not a debt. You do not owe the past your future. The nostalgia that binds tells you that letting go means losing everything. But the truth is, letting go means making space for something new. You can honor the past without living in it. You can cherish the memories without chaining yourself to them. You can thank the house for sheltering you once without refusing to build a new one. You are not being disloyal by growing. You are not being ungrateful by moving forward. You are not being cold by choosing a life that fits who you are now. The nostalgia that binds will whisper that you are leaving something beautiful behind. But you are not. The beauty lives in you. It shaped you. It strengthened you. It taught you. And now it gives you permission to keep going. You are allowed to miss the past and still embrace the future. You are allowed to remember with love and still choose to live fully here, now, where your life is still unfolding, the wound that worships. Imagine someone who has been deeply hurt finding themselves drawn again and again to the very same kind of pain. They do not run from it. They do not fight it. They worship it. They believe it is all they deserve. Wounds have a strange way of shaping our desires. When a wound is left unhealed, it can start to feel like the only truth we know. We mistake the familiarity of pain for the safety of love. We seek out those who mirror the hurt we once received because it feels like home. At first, it seems illogical. Why would anyone choose what breaks them? But the mind craves patterns more than it craves happiness. A familiar pain is less frightening than an unknown peace. When a person worships their wound, they start to see suffering as a badge of honor. They believe love must hurt, that loyalty must cost. That value comes from sacrifice. This shows up in the friendships they choose, the partners they cling to, the situations they tolerate. They do not believe they are worthy of kindness without cost. They do not trust joy without pain hiding beneath it. Healing begins when we question the story the wound has written. When we realize that survival is not the same as love, that endurance is not the same as happiness. You are allowed to want more than what hurt you. You are allowed to expect ease, safety, laughter, kindness without conditions. The wound may whisper that you need to bow before it, but you can rise instead. You can worship your healing more than your pain, because life is not meant to be a shrine to suffering. The flattery that drowns you. Picture someone complimenting you endlessly. Your intelligence, your beauty, your kindness. Their words pour over you like warm rain. At first you soak it in, you smile, you stand taller. But soon, you begin to feel weighed down. You start to drown in their expectations hidden inside their praise. Flattery, when genuine, feels light. It uplifts. But when used with purpose, flattery becomes a tool, a way to disarm you, to draw you in, to make you less likely to notice the traps being set. When someone flatters you excessively, they're not always seeing you. Sometimes they're seeing what they want from you. Their praise creates a version of you that serves their needs. And the more you enjoy the image they paint, the more likely you are to act in ways that keep the flattery coming. Slowly, you find yourself trapped, afraid to disappoint, afraid to lose the admiration that made you feel alive. You say yes when you mean no. You stay when you want to leave. You agree when your heart says otherwise. The drowning is not sudden. It is slow. Word by word. Smile by smile. To protect yourself, you must learn to hear what is not being said. To ask, who benefits from this picture of me? Does this praise see my humanity or only my performance? Real love does not require you to live inside someone else's fantasy. Real admiration honors your wholeness, including your flaws. You deserve to be seen, not just praised. You deserve to breathe, not drown. And the only approval you truly need is the one you give yourself. The regret that redefines reality. Imagine looking back at a decision you made years ago and feeling a sharp sting. You replay it in your mind, but each time the memory grows heavier, darker, more painful. Until one day the memory is no longer what happened. It is what your regret has rewritten. Regret is powerful. It can teach us. It can humble us. But it can also distort. It can take a single mistake and stretch it into a story about your worth. It can turn a bad day into a bad life. It can turn a human error into an unchangeable identity. The mind is not a perfect recorder. It colors memories with emotion. It edits details to match the story we believe. And when regret takes hold, it becomes the editor. You start to see yourself only through the lens of that moment. You forget the courage it took to try, the good intentions you held, the growth that followed. You punish yourself long after the world has moved on. Some people live entire lives trapped inside a reality shaped by regret. They stop taking risks. They stop dreaming. They believe they are broken beyond repair. But the truth is, you are not the worst thing you have done. You are not frozen in the past. You are not defined by a single choice. To heal, you must allow yourself to see the full picture. The mistakes and the lessons, the pain and the progress, the regret and the redemption. Because regret can either be a teacher or a jailer. And you get to choose which role it plays in your story. The smile that stabs. Imagine sharing a moment of joy with someone you trust, only to see a smile on their face that does not reach their eyes. A smile that feels sharp. A smile that leaves a mark. Smiles are supposed to comfort, to welcome. But some smiles are weapons. They carry hidden barbs. They are masks for resentment, for jealousy, for cruelty. This smile does not need to say anything. Its silence is enough. It makes you doubt yourself. It makes you question your joy. It pierces through your confidence without a single word. People who smile this way often hide their true feelings behind politeness. They pretend to celebrate you while secretly resenting your light. At first, you may ignore it. You may tell yourself you are imagining things. But over time, the pattern becomes clear. Their support always feels a little too tight. Their praise always carries an aftertaste. You start to withhold your victories. You dim your excitement. You shrink to fit the comfort of their smile. But your joy is not a threat. Your growth is not a betrayal. You are not responsible for managing someone else's insecurity. Learn to recognize the difference between genuine joy for you and a smile that stabs. And remember, it is better to be alone in your truth than surrounded by people who secretly hope you will fail. Your light deserves to shine without apology. The yes that drowns no. Picture yourself saying yes to something you did not want to do. Maybe it was small. Maybe it felt harmless. But slowly, the yes became heavy. And every time you said yes again, your real desires sank deeper under the surface. Saying yes can be an act of kindness. But when yes is given out of fear, guilt, or obligation, it becomes a betrayal of yourself. Each false yes pushes your true no further away. You lose touch with your own boundaries. You lose the ability to hear your own voice. People who always say yes are often praised. They are seen as easygoing, supportive, loving. But inside, they often carry a growing resentment, a sadness, a feeling of invisibility. You begin to live a life built for others, not for yourself. Reclaiming your no is an act of self-respect. It is not cruelty. It is honesty. No says, I matter too. No says, my energy is finite. No says, I choose truth over pleasing. You do not need to earn love by abandoning yourself. You do not need to drown your needs to stay afloat in someone else's life. A no spoken with clarity is worth more than 100 false yeses. And every time you honor your no, you make space for a yes that is real. The apology that hides control. Imagine someone hurting you deeply, then offering an apology so beautiful that you almost forget the pain. Almost, because beneath their sorry you sense something else. An expectation, a demand. A quiet pressure to move on before you are ready. Some apologies are genuine. They heal. They open doors to understanding. But some apologies are weapons. They are used not to repair, but to silence. They shift the focus from the harm caused to the forgiveness demanded. You are made to feel guilty for not accepting fast enough. You are told you are holding a grudge. You are accused of being bitter. Their sorry is not about your healing. It is about their comfort. You may even start to doubt your pain. Was it really that bad? Should I just let it go? Maybe I am the problem. But healing cannot be rushed. Trust cannot be demanded. Forgiveness cannot be forced. A real apology expects nothing. It sits with the discomfort. It honors the hurt. It gives you space to decide if and when you are ready to forgive. An apology that hides control is just another form of manipulation. You are allowed to take your time. You are allowed to heal at your own pace. You are allowed to say, "Your apology is noted, but my heart needs more time." Because forgiveness should be a gift you choose to give, not a burden you are forced to carry. The gaze that bends. Imagine standing in a room where everyone is quietly watching you. No one speaks, no one points, but their gaze weighs heavy on your skin. You start to adjust your stance. You start to shift your tone. You start to become something slightly different than you were a moment ago. This is the gaze that bends. A gaze can be a simple thing, just eyes looking, but human beings are wired to respond to attention. We are shaped by it. Gaze is never neutral. It carries expectation. It carries judgment. It carries unseen rules. And when enough eyes watch you long enough, you begin to mold yourself to fit them. Sometimes the bending is small, a changed opinion, a softened voice, a swallowed truth. Sometimes it is larger, a new identity, a new dream, a new silence where a song once lived. The gaze that bends is not always hostile. Sometimes it comes with smiles, with approval, with warmth. But the pressure is still there, to please, to belong, to stay within the frame others have drawn for you, and once you start bending, it is hard to stop. You feel the pull to keep the peace, to be what they expect, to avoid disappointing those who are watching. It becomes easier to stay bent than to risk standing straight and being seen differently. You may not even notice it happening at first. It feels like kindness. It feels like responsibility. It feels like fitting in. But over time, the cost grows. You lose pieces of yourself you did not mean to give away. The way to heal from the gaze that bends is not to hide. It is to anchor. Anchor into who you are when no one is watching. Anchor into the truth of your own voice. Anchor into the silence that comes before you are seen. You are allowed to be witnessed without changing. You are allowed to disappoint expectations. You are allowed to stand tall even when the room grows quiet. Your life is not a stage. You do not owe the audience a performance. The gaze may bend you for a time, but you are not made of glass. You are made of something stronger, something that remembers its shape even after the world tries to reshape it. And every time you return to yourself, you become less bendable and more free. The question that corrals. Picture a child playing in a wide-open field. They run freely, laughing, exploring. Then someone calls out a question from the edge of the field. "Are you sure you should be doing that?" The child pauses, looks around. Suddenly the field feels smaller, the boundaries closer. This is the question that corrals. Questions have the power to open or to close. They can invite exploration or they can limit it. A well-placed question can create doubt where there was once confidence. It can introduce hesitation where there was once flow. The question that corrals is not always asked out of malice. Sometimes it comes from fear, from control, from habit. But its effect is the same. It pulls you back from your own instincts. It fences you in with invisible lines. You start to ask yourself if you are being reckless, if you are being selfish, if you are being foolish. You start to measure your choices not by your own compass, but by the imagined judgment of others. The corral becomes tighter with every unchallenged question. What if it does not work out? What if people laugh? What if you regret it? And slowly, the wildness inside you, the part that dares and dreams, grows quieter. You may find yourself living a smaller life than you wanted, not because you lacked ability, not because you lacked desire, but because you answered too many corralling questions with fear instead of freedom. To break free, you must learn to question the questions. Who does this fear serve? What is the cost of playing it safe? Is this doubt protecting me or imprisoning me? Real growth often feels reckless at first. Real freedom often feels foolish. That is because the voice of conformity is loud. It is relentless. But you are not here to live a life small enough to fit within someone else's doubts. You are allowed to risk. You are allowed to explore. You are allowed to trust your own sense of what is possible. The question that corrals will always exist, but it cannot trap you unless you stop moving. The field is still there, wide, open, waiting. You have only to remember you are not a creature meant for fences. You are meant for flight, the comfort that cages. Imagine sitting in a room that is warm, safe, and familiar. Everything you need is within reach. There is nothing to fear. There is nothing to fight. There is also nothing to discover, no challenge, no growth, no stretch. After a while, the room starts to feel smaller. The air starts to feel heavier. This is the comfort that cages. Comfort is important. It heals. It nourishes. It gives us strength to face harder days. But when comfort becomes a permanent goal instead of a resting place, it begins to shrink the soul. We are taught to chase comfort, to value ease, to avoid pain. But every dream you have ever had, every breakthrough you have ever wanted, lives just beyond the walls of comfort. Growth is not found inside soft cushions. It is found at the edge where fear and possibility meet. The comfort that cages whispers that it is dangerous to leave, that it is foolish to risk, that it is better to stay where it is safe. And part of you listens. Part of you longs for the certainty that nothing will hurt, nothing will disappoint, nothing will break. But another part of you aches. The part that remembers what it feels like to be alive, fully alive. Not just breathing, not just surviving, but creating, daring, becoming. You do not have to destroy comfort to be free. You only have to stop worshiping it. You have to stop measuring your life by how little it asks of you. Comfort is meant to be a place to rest, not a place to hide. It is meant to restore you, not to imprison you. The comfort that cages will always offer you reasons to stay small, but none of them will ever feel as real or as right as the pull toward growth. You are strong enough to leave the room. You are strong enough to face the unknown. You are strong enough to trade false safety for real living. The world beyond the cage is not always easy, but it is real. And you deserve a life that challenges you as much as it cherishes you. The memory that masks pain. Imagine looking through a photo album filled with beautiful pictures, smiles, celebrations, achievements. But outside the frame, there were arguments, there were losses, there were nights of loneliness. Yet the photos only show the light. This is how memory can mask pain. The mind edits, it filters, it smooths over the sharp edges of past hurt, not because it is deceitful, but because it is protective. It is easier to remember the good than to sit with the full complexity of what happened. But sometimes this editing becomes a trap. Sometimes it keeps you tied to a version of the past that never really existed. It keeps you loyal to people who hurt you. It keeps you longing for places that stunted you. It keeps you mourning a life you never actually lived. You find yourself saying things like, maybe it was not so bad. Maybe I overreacted. Maybe I should have stayed. And in doing so, you minimize your own pain. You invalidate your own truth. Memory that masks pain robs you of healing. It tells you that the wound was smaller than it was, that the betrayal was accidental, that the loneliness was just your imagination. But healing requires honesty. It requires remembering the full picture, the beauty and the brutality, the joy and the sorrow, the connection and the abandonment. You do not have to hate the past to tell the truth about it. You can hold love and anger in the same hand. You can honor what was good without denying what was harmful. The memory that masks pain may make life feel easier for a while, but it also keeps you from building something better. It keeps you from demanding more. It keeps you from protecting yourself in the future. You are allowed to remember clearly. You are allowed to grieve what you lost. You are allowed to celebrate what you survived. Your story deserves to be told in full color, not just in filtered snapshots. The fear that carves identity. Imagine a sculptor standing before a block of marble, but instead of chiseling with vision and passion, they carve only in reaction to fear, afraid of making a mistake, afraid of wasting time, afraid of disappointing others. And when they finally step back, they find a sculpture that is cautious, small, and incomplete. This is the fear that carves identity. Fear shapes more of us than we realize. We make choices not because they are true to us, but because they feel safer. We adopt personalities that protect us from criticism. We pick careers that minimize risk. We stay in relationships that shield us from loneliness, even if they cost us joy. Bit by bit, fear chisels away the parts of us that dream too loud, love too freely, speak too honestly. At first, it feels like wisdom, like pragmatism. But eventually you look at your life and realize you have built something that does not look like you at all. Fear that carves identity makes you a stranger to yourself. It keeps you small when you were meant to be expansive. It keeps you silent when you were meant to roar. You are not wrong for being afraid. Fear is human, but you are not meant to be ruled by it. You are not meant to be shaped only by what you are avoiding. The life you long for will require risk. It will require mistakes. It will require facing the possibility of pain and choosing to move forward anyway. You do not have to be fearless. You only have to be braver than your fear for a moment longer, again and again. Your identity is not the absence of mistakes. It is the presence of courage, of truth, of bold, imperfect becoming. The fear that carves identity can shape a life. But only you can shape a soul. And your soul was meant to be vast. It was meant to be free. The habit that hides traps. Imagine waking up every morning and doing the same routine without thinking. The same coffee, the same route, the same conversations. It feels safe. It feels familiar. But hidden inside the comfort of these habits are small traps that you can barely see. Habits are powerful. They free up mental space. They allow us to operate smoothly without constant decisions. But habits also have the power to imprison. What once was helpful can quietly become harmful when we stop noticing why we are doing what we are doing. Some habits tell us we are being productive when we are actually avoiding growth. Some habits make us feel connected when we are just repeating patterns that no longer serve us. And the scariest part is that the longer a habit runs, the harder it becomes to question it. You might stay in a job that drains you because the habit of the paycheck feels safer than the fear of change. You might stay in a relationship that no longer feels alive because the habit of familiarity feels easier than the uncertainty of being alone. Habits can lull us into sleepwalking through our own lives. They can build walls that block out the discomfort of transformation. They can keep us stuck in old versions of ourselves that no longer fit. The only way to escape these hidden traps is to wake up, to notice, to question. Why do I do this? Who benefits from this habit? Is it moving me closer to who I want to be or anchoring me to who I used to be? Real growth begins when you stop worshiping habits and start using them with purpose. Because you were not made to live on autopilot. You were made to live awake. The laughter that leashes. Picture sitting at a table, sharing a story, and hearing the room erupt with laughter. You smile too at first. It feels good to be seen. But slowly, you notice the laughter is not with you. It is at you. It carries an edge that stings more than it soothes. Laughter is supposed to be healing. It is supposed to connect. But laughter can also be used as a leash, a way to keep you small, a way to remind you of the invisible boundaries you are not supposed to cross. When laughter becomes a tool of control, it teaches you to doubt your own instincts, to question your dreams, to play it safe, to avoid standing out. The worst kind of laughter does not come from strangers. It comes from the people closest to you, friends, family, people you love. They laugh when you reach for more. They laugh when you share your real self. They laugh when you dare to dream bigger. And because you trust them, their laughter leashes you. It wraps around your ambition and pulls you back down. Over time, you laugh too. You laugh at your own hopes before anyone else can. You shrink your voice. You apologize for wanting. But you were not made to live in the space of someone else's comfort. You were not born to fit inside their laughter. Real love does not use laughter to control. Real friendship does not shrink you to size. And you are allowed to grow bigger than the jokes they make about you. The story that blinds. Imagine carrying a story about yourself so deeply that you no longer question it. You are the quiet one, the failure, the one who never finishes, the one who always helps, the one who never wins. And because the story feels so familiar, you forget that it is just a story. Stories can give meaning. They can offer comfort. But some stories are cages. Some stories blind you to the reality that you are not fixed, that you can change. A story repeated enough times becomes invisible. It is not seen as a belief. It is seen as a fact. You stop trying to stretch beyond it because you cannot even see the walls anymore. People around you often reinforce the story. They greet you with it. They expect it. They reward it. And every time you try to change, you feel the resistance of their expectations pressing against you. But your life is not a book written by others. Your life is a living thing. It is allowed to evolve. You can outgrow the story. You can rewrite the ending. You can surprise yourself. It starts with a small crack, a moment where you ask, what if they are wrong about me? What if I am wrong about me? The truth is, you are always more than the story you have been given. You are not bound by what you were. You are shaped by what you choose next. And blindness is not permanent when you choose to open your eyes. The scar that scripts. Picture a deep scar across your skin. Every time you see it, it reminds you of something painful. But over time, you stop just seeing the scar. You start living by it. It becomes a script you follow without question. Scars are supposed to heal. They're supposed to remind us of survival. But some scars become stories that control our choices long after the pain has faded. You touch the scar and remember betrayal, so you stop trusting. You touch the scar and remember loss, so you stop loving. You touch the scar and remember failure, so you stop trying. The scar becomes the script, and the script says, stay small, stay safe, stay hidden. You tell yourself you are being wise, being mature, being realistic. But deep down, you know the scar is writing your life for you. It is natural to be shaped by pain, but it is tragic to be ruled by it. Healing does not mean forgetting. Healing means remembering differently. It means seeing the scar and saying, I survived, and because I survived, I can risk again. The scar is part of your story, but it is not the whole story. You have the pen now. You can write a new chapter where fear does not decide for you. Because you are not what hurt you, you are what grew from it. The disappointment that defines. Imagine being excited about something, a new love, a new project, a new hope, and then watching it collapse. The weight of disappointment sits heavy on your chest. At first it is just one moment, but slowly it starts to define you. Disappointment is inevitable. It comes with caring. It comes with trying. But when disappointment is allowed to define you, it becomes a prison. You stop hoping as much. You stop dreaming as much. You stop risking as much. You tell yourself you are being smart. You are being cautious. But really, you are being shaped by fear. Every new opportunity is viewed through the lens of what went wrong before. Every new connection is shadowed by what was lost. The past becomes the blueprint for the future. But disappointment is not a prophecy. It is a bruise, not a broken bone. You are allowed to feel it fully. You are allowed to grieve, but you are not required to make a home in it. Life will disappoint again. That is true. But it will also surprise you. It will delight you. It will offer you chances to begin again. And every time you risk believing, you loosen the hold that disappointment has on you. You are not defined by the doors that closed. You are defined by the ones you are still willing to knock on. The secret that sinks you. Imagine carrying a secret so heavy that it feels like a stone tied around your ankle. Every day you swim through life, pretending you are fine, while the weight quietly pulls you deeper under the surface. Some secrets protect, some secrets empower, but some secrets sink you. They isolate you. They convince you that no one would understand. They tell you that you are too broken, too different, too damaged. You smile through the pain, you laugh through the fear, but inside you are drowning. The longer you carry the secret alone, the heavier it becomes. It steals your energy. It clouds your judgment. It makes you distrust even the people who love you most. You think revealing it would destroy everything. But often, the hiding does more harm than the truth ever could. Freedom does not always come from shouting your secret to the world. Sometimes it comes from telling one person. Sometimes it comes from telling yourself. From saying, I am more than this. I am not defined by what I hide. You are allowed to bring your truth into the light. You are allowed to breathe without the weight pulling you down. Because secrets lose their power when they are no longer locked inside you. The friendship that fractures. Imagine having a friend who once felt like a second soul. You laughed together. You cried together. You built memories that felt unbreakable. But one day, you notice a crack, a shift, a fracture. Friendships are supposed to grow, but sometimes they break. Sometimes it is a slow drifting. Sometimes it is a sudden betrayal. Sometimes it is simply two people growing in different directions. The pain of a fractured friendship is deep because it touches something tender. It feels like losing a piece of yourself. You replay old conversations. You wonder what went wrong. You blame yourself. You blame them. You ache for what was. But not all fractures are failures. Some fractures reveal truths that were always there. Some fractures make space for new connections that fit who you are now. You can grieve the friendship without needing to hate the person. You can honor the good without ignoring the hurt. And you can allow yourself to move forward without carrying bitterness. Friendship, like all love, is a living thing. It breathes. It changes. It sometimes ends, but endings are not the enemy. Stagnation is. You are allowed to outgrow. You are allowed to walk away. You are allowed to miss them and still know it was right to let go. Because your heart was made to keep loving, even after it breaks. The hope that hurts. Imagine holding a seed in your hand, waiting for it to bloom. Days pass. Weeks. Seasons. You keep watering. You keep waiting. You keep believing. But the seed was never alive to begin with. No matter how much you nurture it, nothing will grow. This is the hope that hurts. Hope is beautiful. It lifts us. It carries us through dark nights. It keeps us moving when everything else tells us to stop. But sometimes, hope lingers in places where it should not. It keeps us tied to what will never change. It keeps us loyal to dreams that no longer fit the shape of who we are becoming. The hope that hurts is not a spark. It is a weight. It tells you just a little longer, just a little more sacrifice, just one more chance. And so, you stay in the wrong place, with the wrong people, chasing the wrong future. Because giving up hope feels like failure. It feels like betrayal. It feels like killing a part of yourself. But hope without evidence is not strength. It is blindness. Hope without growth is not bravery. It is self-abandonment. You may find yourself defending a situation that keeps breaking your heart. You may find yourself excusing actions that keep hurting you. You may find yourself shrinking your needs to fit a smaller and smaller space. All in the name of hope. It is not weak to let go of hope that hurts you. It is not cruel to stop waiting for what has already shown you it cannot come. It is wise. It is an act of love for yourself. True hope should feel light, not heavy. It should move you forward, not trap you in endless waiting. It should make you braver, not smaller. You are allowed to choose yourself over the fantasy of who someone might become. You are allowed to choose your peace over the endless war of waiting. Hope is sacred, but it is sacred because it is tied to truth. And the truth is, not every seed grows, not every story gets a happy ending, and not every effort leads to reward. The hope that hurts will keep you stuck, but the courage to hope for something better, something real, will set you free. The help that hinders. Picture a bird with a broken wing being held by someone too afraid to let it try flying again. They feed it, they protect it, they keep it safe, but they never let it test its wings. They never let it fail. They never let it fly. This is the help that hinders. There is a kind of help that is about control, a kind of help that keeps you dependent, a kind of help that keeps you small because it is easier to manage you that way. Sometimes the person offering help truly believes they are saving you. They believe they are protecting you from pain, from failure, from the harshness of the world. But real help does not eliminate struggle. It prepares you for it. It does not clip your wings. It strengthens them. The help that hinders tells you that you cannot do it on your own, that you are fragile, that you are incapable. And the more you hear it, the more you begin to believe it. You stop trying. You stop dreaming. You stop risking. You live inside the smallness someone else has defined for you. You may see this in relationships where one person always rescues the other but never empowers them. You may see it in systems that offer aid but strip away dignity. You may even see it in your own habits when you protect others from consequences they need in order to grow. True help is rooted in trust. It says, I believe you are strong enough. It says, I will walk with you, not walk for you. It says, I will stay near, even when you stumble. The help that hinders feels kind on the surface, but underneath, it steals your belief in yourself. You are allowed to accept support that builds you. You are allowed to reject support that suffocates you. You are strong enough to fall. You are strong enough to rise. You are strong enough to need less and less, until one day you realize you can fly again. The help that hinders may be offered with love, but real love always leads to freedom. The warning that weakens. Imagine walking toward a mountain you have always wanted to climb. Just as you reach the first step, someone calls out, "Be careful, it is dangerous." You hesitate, you doubt, you turn back, not because you saw danger, but because you were warned of it. This is the warning that weakens. Warnings are meant to protect, but when they are overused, they become prisons. They plant seeds of fear where there should be courage. They encourage avoidance where there should be action. The warning that weakens does not say, "Prepare yourself." It says, "You should not even try." It does not empower you to move wisely. It discourages you from moving at all. You may find yourself shrinking from opportunities you once longed for. You may find yourself second-guessing instincts that once felt clear. You may find yourself living a life smaller than the one you are capable of living. Warnings come from many places. From those who love us and fear for us. From those who envy us and want to hold us back. From our own internal voices shaped by past failures. It is important to listen to caution. It is wise to prepare. But it is dangerous to let fear decide for you. You are allowed to hear a warning and still move forward. You are allowed to acknowledge risk and still choose to climb. Every great thing you will ever do will come with warnings. Every dream you will ever chase will come with risks. Safety was never the point. Growth was. The warning that weakens can only control you if you forget that you are stronger than your fears. You have survived too much already to be stopped by someone else's doubt. You were made for the climb. Even when the voices say otherwise, the belief that betrays. Picture building a house on a foundation you never question. You decorate it. You live in it. You trust it. But one day, cracks appear. You realize the ground itself was never stable. This is what happens with a belief that betrays. Beliefs are powerful. They shape how we see the world. They shape how we see ourselves. They define what we think is possible. But not all beliefs are chosen. Some are given to us by families, by cultures, by systems. Some are built on fear, on control, on survival. The belief that betrays is the one that tells you that you are not enough, that you must earn love, that you must stay small to stay safe, that you must never dare too much. At first, the belief feels protective. It feels like truth, but over time it limits you. It lies to you. It turns possibility into impossibility. You may find yourself backing away from opportunities you are fully capable of handling. You may find yourself settling for less than you deserve. You may find yourself living someone else's story instead of your own. The betrayal hurts most because it feels so familiar. It feels so normal. It feels like a fact of life. But beliefs are not facts. They are choices, and once you see the cracks, you are allowed to rebuild. You can choose new beliefs, ones that lift you, ones that honor you, ones that move you closer to the life you long for. The belief that betrays was never your fault. It was planted before you could defend yourself. But now you know. And now you have the power to choose differently. You can build a new foundation, one made not of fear but of truth, one strong enough to carry you forward. The safety that strangles. Imagine wrapping yourself in a thick blanket during a storm. At first it feels comforting, protective, but after a while it becomes hard to breathe. The air grows heavy. The warmth turns suffocating. This is the safety that strangles. Safety is essential. We all need it, especially after wounds, especially after loss. But when safety becomes the only goal, it begins to steal from you. It steals your willingness to risk. It steals your willingness to trust. It steals your willingness to be seen. You start to live inside smaller and smaller circles. You start to say no to more and more possibilities. You start to tell yourself that anything unfamiliar is dangerous. The safety that strangles tells you to avoid new relationships because you might get hurt, to avoid new dreams because you might fail, to avoid your own growth because it might be uncomfortable. It promises protection, but it delivers isolation. You may find yourself lonely, but convinced it is better than risking connection. You may find yourself bored, but convinced it is better than risking failure. You may find yourself numb, but convinced it is better than risking pain. But life is not meant to be lived entirely inside a shelter. It is meant to be lived out in the open, where the storms come and go, where the risks are real, but so are the rewards. You are allowed to seek safety, but you are also allowed to seek adventure. You are allowed to want more than comfort. You are allowed to want aliveness. The safety that strangles will keep you breathing, but it will not let you sing. And you were meant for songs, even if they sometimes tremble in the wind. The distance that deceives. Imagine standing on a hill looking at a faraway village. From where you are, it looks peaceful, beautiful, perfect, but you cannot see the cracks in the walls. You cannot hear the arguments inside the homes. This is the distance that deceives. Distance makes everything look softer, safer, simpler. This is true of places, of people, of dreams. From far away, the past looks golden. From far away, the future looks guaranteed. From far away, other people's lives look effortless. But up close, everything is more complicated, more human, more real. The distance that deceives tells you that what you have is not enough, that somewhere else would be better, that someone else's path would be easier. It robs you of gratitude. It robs you of presence. It robs you of your own journey. You start chasing illusions. You start living in regrets. You start believing that happiness is always somewhere else. But happiness is not found at a distance. It is found here, now. In the messy beauty of your own imperfect life, you are allowed to dream. But do not let dreams become comparisons. You are allowed to grow. But do not let growth become escape. The distance that deceives loses its power when you choose to see clearly, when you choose to honor the truth instead of the fantasy. The life you long for is not out there. It is waiting to be built right where you stand. The reward that rots. Imagine working for years to reach a prize only to find when you finally touch it, it crumbles into dust in your hands. This is the reward that rots. Not every achievement is worth the sacrifice it demands. Not every goal leads to satisfaction. Sometimes you chase success because you are told it will make you happy. Sometimes you chase approval because you are told it will make you whole. Sometimes you chase power because you are told it will make you safe. But when you arrive, you find that the reward was hollow, that it cannot heal what hurt, that it cannot fill what is empty. The reward that rots feeds on promises that were never real. It feeds on illusions about what matters. You sacrifice time, you sacrifice health, you sacrifice relationships. And in the end, you are left holding a prize that does not love you back. The answer is not to stop dreaming. The answer is to choose your prizes carefully. Choose goals that nourish you as you pursue them. Choose paths that align with your values. Choose successes that you would be proud of, even if no one else noticed. The reward that rots loses its power when you realize that the real prize is the person you become on the way. You are not here to gather dust. You are here to build meaning. You are not here to win hollow victories. You are here to live deeply and freely. The reward that rots will always tempt you, but the reward that strengthens you will always be worth more. The praise that predicts. Imagine being told from a young age that you are destined for greatness. Every achievement, every step forward, every little victory met with wide eyes and excited words. You start to feel not just pride but pressure. The praise no longer feels like a reflection of who you are. It starts to feel like a prediction of who you must become. Praise can be beautiful when it recognizes who you are in the present. But when praise predicts a future you have not chosen, it can become a heavy burden. It traps you in a path where every move feels judged. Every change feels like a betrayal of what they expected. You find yourself trying to live up to an image rather than living out your truth. You begin to perform. You chase goals that once inspired you but now only exhaust you. You cannot slow down because slowing down feels like failure. Those who praised you may have meant well. They believed in you. They wanted the best for you. But without realizing, they planted a seed that grew into a cage. To find freedom, you must learn to separate genuine encouragement from expectation disguised as love. You must ask yourself, whose dream am I chasing? Whose applause am I living for? Real praise does not predict your future. It celebrates your presence. It says you are enough now, not only when you reach some distant peak, and you are allowed to change. You are allowed to grow in directions they never imagined, because your worth is not a prophecy to fulfill. It is a truth you carry now. The attention that addicts. Picture stepping onto a stage for the first time and hearing the crowd cheer. The sound fills you up like warm light. It feels intoxicating. For a moment, you are seen, you are known, you are wanted. But later, when the lights go out and the room empties, something inside you aches to feel that again. Attention is not evil. We are wired to crave connection, recognition, validation. But attention can easily become an addiction when we begin to need it to feel real. At first, you enjoy the attention. It feels like love, like belonging, but soon you start to depend on it. You measure your worth by it. You chase it even when it costs your peace. You begin shaping yourself to fit the crowd. You post the things they will like. You say the words that will get a reaction. You abandon parts of yourself that do not attract applause, and slowly you lose the line between who you are and who you perform to be. Attention addiction is dangerous because it offers small highs that mask deep emptiness. It keeps you running on a treadmill that never stops. To reclaim yourself, you must learn to find value in the silence. In the unseen moments, in the quiet spaces where no one is clapping, you must become your own witness, your own admirer, because real peace is not found in their gaze. It is found in your own reflection when the lights are off and you still know you are enough. The mirror that lies. Imagine standing in front of a mirror that shows not your face but your worst fears. Every flaw exaggerated, every mistake magnified, every insecurity shouting louder than your truth. Some mirrors tell the truth. They reflect back what is, but some mirrors lie. They twist reality through the lens of our self-judgment, our shame, our past wounds. When you live with a lying mirror, you begin to distrust your own beauty. You question your worth. You see yourself not as you are, but as you fear to be. This mirror does not hang on a wall. It lives in your mind. It grows stronger every time you compare yourself to others. Every time you listen to the critical voices that told you you are not enough, you start believing you are too much, or not enough, or both, depending on the day. But mirrors can be changed. They are not fixed. You can learn to polish the glass. To correct the distortion, you begin by noticing when the reflection feels cruel instead of clear. You question the voice that says, "You are failing." You offer yourself the kindness you would offer a friend, because the mirror that lies feeds on your silence. It loses power when you speak truth. You are not your worst thoughts. You are not your darkest days. You are so much more than the image fear tries to paint. The smile that suffocates. Imagine someone smiling at you with such warmth that you feel obligated to smile back. Even when you are hurting, even when you are angry, even when you need space, their smile demands your performance. A genuine smile can light up a heart. But some smiles are not invitations. They are commands. They say, stay happy, stay agreeable, stay small. This smile suffocates because it does not leave room for your real emotions. It does not welcome your sadness. It does not hold space for your anger. It demands you fit into the comfort of others. Over time, you learn to hide parts of yourself. You laugh when you want to cry. You nod when you want to scream. You become a character in someone else's pleasant story. You lose the ability to trust your own feelings because you are always editing them to fit the smile expected of you. But your emotions are not problems to be hidden. They are truths to be honored. A real smile welcomes all of you, not just the parts that are easy to handle. You are allowed to frown. You are allowed to cry. You are allowed to be real. And the people who truly love you will not ask you to suffocate your soul just to keep their smiles intact. The memory that manipulates. Picture remembering a moment so clearly that you can feel it in your bones. But every time you look back, the memory seems to change just a little. Details blur. Emotions sharpen. Soon, you are not sure what really happened anymore, only that it hurts. Memory is not a recording. It is a living thing. It breathes, it shifts, and sometimes it manipulates. Sometimes this happens naturally. Time bends our memories. Pain colors them darker. Longing paints them sweeter. But sometimes, memories are manipulated by others. Someone tells you, that is not how it happened. Someone insists you were wrong, and slowly, you doubt your own truth. Memory manipulation is powerful because it makes you lose trust in yourself. You question your instincts. You hesitate before acting. You become easier to control. You start living according to a reality rewritten by someone else's needs. To protect yourself, you must honor what your heart knows, even when your mind gets confused. You can hold space for complexity without abandoning your truth. You can say, maybe I do not remember every detail, but I remember how it made me feel. And that matters. Because your lived experience is valid even when the world tries to reshape it. And you deserve to trust yourself again. The applause that anchors. Imagine standing on a stage and hearing the roar of applause. It lifts you. It feeds you. But when it fades, you feel hollow. You crave it again. You need it to feel steady. Applause is beautiful. It connects us. It affirms us. But applause can also anchor you in a place you no longer belong. When you are applauded for a certain version of yourself, it becomes harder to evolve. You fear disappointing those who loved you as you were. You stay in a career that no longer feeds your soul. You stay in a role that no longer fits. You say yes to expectations you have long since outgrown. Because applause feels like love, and losing it feels like loss. But the love that demands you stay the same is not real love. It is attachment. It is fear. You are allowed to change even if it confuses the crowd. You are allowed to grow even if it costs you their approval. Because applause that keeps you anchored is a weight, not a gift. Real celebration follows you wherever your soul leads, and the only standing ovation you truly need is the one inside your own heart, the shadow that shepherds. Imagine walking through a dark forest, feeling lost, and suddenly sensing a presence behind you. At first, it frightens you, but then you realize it is your own shadow, not an enemy, not a threat, a silent guide. We are taught to fear our shadows, our anger, our grief, our jealousy, our fear. We are told to push them away, to bury them, to pretend they do not exist. But shadows do not disappear when ignored. They grow, they twist. They leak into our lives in ways we cannot control. When you turn toward your shadow, you realize something powerful. It is not here to destroy you. It is here to teach you. Your anger shows where your boundaries were crossed. Your grief shows where your love was deepest. Your fear shows where your dreams are hiding. Your shadow can shepherd you toward wholeness if you are brave enough to listen. Facing your shadow is not easy. It requires honesty. It requires tenderness. It requires the willingness to see yourself fully, not just the parts you are proud of. But every part of you belongs. Every part of you is worthy of love. And the light you seek is not found by rejecting your shadow. It is found by walking with it into your own healing. The touch that tethers. Imagine someone reaching out and gently placing their hand on your shoulder at just the right moment. It feels comforting. It feels grounding. You do not resist. You welcome it. But slowly, you notice that every time you try to step away, their hand becomes firmer. What started as connection now feels like possession. This is the touch that tethers. Touch is powerful. It is one of the oldest forms of human connection. It calms. It soothes. It speaks what words often cannot. But touch can also bind. It can create invisible contracts. It can make you stay when your spirit wants to move. The touch that tethers does not always feel wrong at first. It often feels like love, like support, like loyalty. And that is what makes it so tricky. You start to associate your safety with their presence. You start to doubt your own strength. You start to believe you need them in ways you once did not. Over time, you lose the ability to leave easily. You hesitate. You feel guilty. You second-guess yourself. The touch that once comforted now controls. You may find this in relationships where one person becomes your anchor and your cage at the same time. You may feel this with people who use small gestures of care to hold you closer than you want to be. True connection should feel expansive, not restrictive. It should make you feel braver, not more afraid. It should invite freedom, not demand closeness. To free yourself from the touch that tethers, you must reconnect to the part of you that knows how to stand alone. You must trust that needing space does not mean you are ungrateful, that wanting independence does not make you cruel. The people who truly love you will never need to hold you in place to keep you close. They will trust your freedom. They will celebrate your wings. You are not meant to be tethered by comfort. You are meant to be touched by love and still be free. The promise that persuades. Imagine someone promising you a beautiful future. They paint it with such vivid colors that you can almost touch it. You want to believe them. You want it to be true, and so you follow. Even when the present reality does not match the picture. Even when the promises are only words. This is the promise that persuades. Promises are powerful. They give us hope. They give us direction. They give us reasons to endure hardship. But not all promises are made in honesty. Some are made to control, to distract, to delay. The promise that persuades does not require action. It only requires belief. It uses your own hopes against you. It convinces you to stay in situations that hurt. It convinces you to trust people who show you otherwise. You find yourself thinking, they said they would change. They said it would get better. They said they loved me. And so you give second chances, third chances, endless chances. You are not foolish for wanting to believe. Hope is not weakness, but hope without evidence becomes self-betrayal. The promise that persuades thrives when you ignore patterns, when you excuse actions, when you silence your own doubts. To protect yourself, you must learn to watch what people do, not just what they say. Words are easy. Action is hard. Consistency is rare. But consistency is where real trust is built. You are allowed to hope. But hope should be rooted in reality, not fantasy. You are allowed to want better, but wanting it does not make it appear. The promise that persuades will lose its power the moment you decide that your dreams deserve more than someone else's empty words. They deserve your own effort, your own belief, your own hands building something real. You are not waiting for someone else to deliver your future. You are creating it yourself. The help that hides harm. Imagine someone offering you a hand while you are struggling to stand. You take it gratefully, you lean on it, you trust it. But you realize slowly that they are not lifting you up, they are pulling you down. Their help comes with a hidden cost. This is the help that hides harm. Help is supposed to heal, it is supposed to strengthen. But when help is used to gain control, it becomes a weapon. Sometimes people offer help not to empower you, but to make you dependent, to make you grateful, to make you loyal. Their help is not about your growth, it is about their power. You may find yourself feeling indebted, feeling guilty, feeling trapped. You did so much for me, you think. How can I walk away now? How can I say no? But real help does not require repayment. Real help does not create chains. The help that hides harm often starts with small sacrifices, small compromises. You adjust your needs. You silence your doubts. You stay longer than you should. It is hard to see because it is wrapped in kindness. It is disguised as generosity. But your heart knows. It feels the weight. It feels the tightening. You are allowed to accept help without surrendering yourself. You are allowed to set boundaries even with those who have been generous. You are allowed to question the hands that hold you. Not all kindness is clean. Not all support is sincere. Your freedom is worth protecting, even when it means walking away from help that asks for more than it gives. The help that hides harm will always look generous at first. But real generosity strengthens you. It does not silence you. The familiarity that fools. Picture walking into a room you have been in 1,000 times. You know where every chair is, every crack in the wall, every shadow. You feel safe. You feel certain. But what you do not notice is that the room has started to crumble. Slowly. Quietly. The floorboards are rotting. The ceiling is sagging. But because it is familiar, you trust it. This is the familiarity that fools. Familiarity feels safe. It feels known. It feels right. But familiarity is not the same as goodness. It is not the same as truth. It is not the same as love. You can stay in unhealthy places because they are familiar. You can cling to harmful habits because they are familiar. You can return to people who hurt you because they are familiar. Your brain is wired to prefer what it knows, even when what it knows is painful. The familiarity that fools keeps you from questioning. It keeps you from leaving. It keeps you from growing. You tell yourself it is not that bad. You tell yourself it could be worse. You tell yourself it is normal. But just because something is familiar does not mean it is right. Just because something feels comfortable does not mean it is healthy. You are allowed to outgrow places you once loved. You are allowed to leave behind patterns that once protected you. You are allowed to seek new rooms, new people, new lives. Comfort can be a beautiful thing, but when comfort costs you your peace, your joy, your future, it becomes a prison. The familiarity that fools will whisper that you are safer where you are, but your soul knows better. It knows that real safety comes from truth, from freedom, from choosing yourself. The whisper that wins. Imagine a crowded room filled with loud voices shouting for your attention. But somewhere in the noise, a whisper calls your name. It is so soft you almost miss it. But it is steady, it is clear, and somehow it cuts through all the chaos. This is the whisper that wins. Not all influence is loud. Not all control is forceful. Sometimes the most powerful voices are the quietest. The ones that speak to your hopes, to your fears, to your hidden dreams. The whisper that wins does not demand. It suggests. It does not shout. It nudges. You may find yourself changing your mind without realizing why. You may find yourself doubting yourself without remembering who planted the seed. The whisper that wins knows how to bypass your defenses. It knows how to slip into your thoughts and feel like they were your own. It can come from people who seem harmless, from ideas that seem wise, from beliefs that seem comforting. But influence is not about volume. It is about persistence, about resonance. The danger of the whisper is that you rarely recognize it happening. You think you are making your own choices. You think you are following your own voice. To guard yourself, you must slow down. You must ask, whose voice is this? Whose dream am I chasing? Whose fear am I obeying? You are allowed to listen carefully, to question softly spoken truths, to protect the sacred space of your own mind. The whisper that wins may be quiet, but your awareness is louder. Your discernment is stronger. You are not powerless against soft control. You are powerful in your noticing, in your choosing. You get to decide whose voice you follow. The compassion that controls. Imagine reaching out to someone in pain and feeling their relief pour into your hands. It feels good to help. It feels right. But what happens when your compassion becomes a leash, a way to keep them dependent on your kindness? Compassion is one of the purest forces in the world. It heals wounds. It builds bridges. But when compassion comes with expectations, when it asks for loyalty in return, when it holds someone back instead of lifting them up, it stops being compassion. It becomes control. You may not even realize it is happening. You offer support and then feel hurt when they grow without you. You give advice and feel frustrated when they choose their own way. You rescue them again and again, even when they are ready to walk on their own. At first, it feels selfless, but over time, you start needing their need. Their struggles make you important. Their dependence gives you purpose. And the relationship becomes less about their healing and more about your place in their life. Real compassion liberates. It strengthens others to stand tall on their own. It offers help, not chains. It says, I am here if you need me, but you are strong enough without me too. If your kindness requires that someone stay broken, it is not kindness anymore. It is control wearing a soft mask. You are allowed to care deeply. You are allowed to love fiercely. But you must also allow freedom. You must love them enough to let them heal without owing you anything. Because true compassion never cages. It only frees. the threat that thrives. Picture a room where fear hangs heavier than the air. Every word, every move, every silence weighed down by the possibility of anger. People behave not out of love or belief, but out of survival. This is where threats thrive. Threats do not always come as loud shouts or slammed doors. Sometimes they are subtle, a cold silence, a raised eyebrow, a withdrawal of affection. They teach you the rules without needing to say them out loud. Threats thrive because they work. Fear makes people obey. It makes them shrink. It makes them abandon their own needs to avoid punishment. In homes, in workplaces, in relationships, in societies, threats create order quickly, but at a terrible cost. They kill trust. They crush creativity. They suffocate authenticity. Living under threat feels like walking on thin ice. You become hyper-aware of moods. You second-guess your own desires. You forget how to dream because survival demands all your energy. But control gained through fear is fragile. It may force compliance, but it will never earn true loyalty. It may silence voices, but it will never win hearts. Freedom begins when you recognize the threats for what they are. When you refuse to let fear dictate your life. When you realize that peace built on fear is not peace at all. You deserve a life where love is not a weapon, and freedom is not a risk, but a birthright. Because the strongest lives are built not from fear, but from courage. The celebration that cages. Imagine someone throwing you a grand celebration. Praise rains down. Gifts pile up. Everyone smiles. It feels wonderful until you realize the celebration has invisible walls. Now you are expected to stay exactly as you were when they celebrated you. Celebrations are supposed to honor, to uplift, but sometimes celebrations become cages. They create a version of you that everyone loves and expects you to maintain forever. You were praised for being selfless, so now you feel guilty asking for your own needs. You were celebrated for being strong, so now you hide your pain. You were admired for being funny, so now you laugh even when you want to cry. Slowly, the person you were becoming gets trapped inside the person they loved. You start to feel alone in the applause. The celebration that once lifted you now holds you hostage. Growth feels like betrayal. Change feels like loss. Authenticity feels like a risk. But you are allowed to change even when people do not celebrate the new you. You are allowed to disappoint the expectations others built around you. Real celebration sees not just who you were, but who you are becoming. It claps for your evolution, not your perfection. And you are not here to play a role in someone else's story. You are here to write your own. The choice that chains. Picture standing at a crossroads, choosing one path over another. At first, it feels freeing. You made a choice. You stepped forward. But over time, the choice becomes a chain around your ankle, dragging behind you everywhere you go. Choices define our lives. They shape our stories. But some choices, once made, are used to trap us. You said yes once, so now they expect you to keep saying yes forever. You took one step, so now they tell you you cannot turn back. People will say, "You chose this, remember?" As if choice is a prison sentence, as if growth is betrayal. But true choice is alive. It breathes. It evolves. You are allowed to choose differently when you know better. You are allowed to change your mind when your heart changes. You are allowed to step off a path that no longer fits who you are. A choice made from a past version of you does not have to define the future you. Freedom means being loyal not to your old choices, but to your new truths. You are not chained by what you once needed. You are guided by what you now understand. The comfort that corrupts. Imagine curling up in a space that feels safe. Familiar faces, familiar routines, no risks, no surprises. It feels good. It feels right. Until one day, you realize you have stopped growing. You have started shrinking. Comfort is essential. It heals. It protects. But comfort can also corrupt. It can make you trade your dreams for safety, your voice for approval, your wings for walls. At first, it does not feel like corruption. It feels like wisdom, like maturity. But inside, something restless stirs. You know you were made for more than this. Comfort begins to whisper that risk is foolish, that change is dangerous, that hope is naive. And if you listen long enough, you forget how to dream. True comfort supports your growth. It does not stifle it. It gives you the strength to reach higher, not the fear to stay low. You were not made to be comfortable forever. You were made to be alive. And aliveness sometimes requires stepping outside the walls you built for yourself, the smile that starves. Imagine reaching out for connection and being met with a perfect smile. It looks welcoming, it looks safe, but behind it there is no real warmth, no real nourishment, only emptiness. Some smiles feed the soul. They offer kindness without conditions. But some smiles starve you. They give just enough attention to keep you hoping, just enough approval to keep you staying, just enough sweetness to keep you doubting yourself. These smiles are often used by people who want to control without confrontation. They want your loyalty without earning it. They want your energy without feeding your spirit. Over time, you begin to feel hollow. You wonder why you are exhausted after being with them. You question why you feel lonely in their presence. It is because you are starving for real connection. You deserve more than politeness. You deserve more than surface-level warmth. You deserve relationships that nourish you, that feed your dreams, that celebrate your truth. You are allowed to walk away from smiles that starve your soul, because true connection does not leave you hungry, it leaves you whole, the apology that arms. Imagine someone apologizing to you in a way that feels off. Their words say sorry, but their eyes say attack. You accept their apology because it feels like the right thing to do. But later, you realize they have armed themselves with your forgiveness. Some apologies are not apologies. They are strategies. They say sorry not to heal, but to silence. They say sorry not to connect, but to reset the battlefield. An apology should be a bridge back to trust. But when an apology is used as armor, it becomes a weapon. They point to it later to shut you down, to make you feel unreasonable for still feeling hurt, to paint you as bitter or unforgiving. You are made to feel like the bad one for not erasing your pain on their timeline. But real healing does not come from a forced apology. It comes from changed behavior. It comes from consistent respect. It comes from patience, not pressure. You are allowed to hold onto your boundaries even after an apology. You are allowed to protect your heart even after forgiveness, because true apologies are not weapons. They are seeds planted in humility and watered by action. The blame that blossoms. Imagine planting a seed that you did not even realize you were carrying. You drop it into the soil without much thought. Over time, it grows. Slowly, quietly, until one day you realize it has wrapped itself around everything you are. This is the blame that blossoms. Blame feels powerful at first. It gives you somewhere to put the pain. It gives you a clear story. It tells you who is wrong and why you hurt. In a world that often feels chaotic and confusing, blame offers a strange kind of order. But blame grows. It roots itself deep into your heart. It twists around your relationships. It colors how you see yourself. It blossoms into bitterness, into resentment, into a life shaped more by wounds than by dreams. You start to define yourself by what was done to you, by who hurt you, by the injustices you suffered. Your story becomes less about who you are and more about who failed you. It is not wrong to name your pain. It is not wrong to hold others accountable. But when blame becomes your primary lens, it blinds you. It steals your power. It convinces you that your healing depends on someone else changing. The blame that blossoms often starts with real hurt, with real betrayal, but it ends by chaining you to a past you cannot rewrite. You may find yourself rehearsing old arguments in your mind. You may find yourself telling the same painful stories over and over. You may find yourself waiting for apologies that never come. But healing does not begin when others say they are sorry. It begins when you decide you no longer want to carry the weight. You are allowed to grieve what happened. You are allowed to be angry. You are allowed to tell your story. But you are not required to live inside it forever. You can hold truth and still choose freedom. You can honor your pain and still choose joy. You can remember the betrayal and still choose to build a life beyond it. The blame that blossoms may feel strong, but your choice to heal is stronger. Your future is too beautiful to be built on the soil of old wounds. You can pull the roots. You can plant something new. You can bloom differently. The escape that enslaves. Picture running toward an open door, heart pounding, lungs burning, desperate to get away. You leap through it. You slam it shut. Relief washes over you. You think you are free. But when you look around, you realize the room you are in has no windows, no exits, no light. This is the escape that enslaves. Escape feels like freedom. It feels like survival. When life becomes too heavy, too painful, too sharp, the urge to run is natural. Sometimes escape looks like distraction. Sometimes it looks like denial. Sometimes it looks like starting over again and again without ever finishing what you began. At first, it soothes, it gives you space, it lets you breathe, but escape without intention becomes a new prison. One where you are always running but never arriving. One where you trade one kind of pain for another. You may find yourself moving from relationship to relationship, from job to job, from dream to dream. Always searching, always fleeing, always hoping the next place will be different. But the truth is, you cannot run far enough to leave yourself behind. The escape that enslaves convinces you that movement is progress, that avoidance is healing, that distance is freedom. But true freedom is not about leaving. It is about arriving. Arriving fully in your own life, in your own body, in your own truth. You are allowed to leave what hurts you. You are allowed to seek better. But you must also be willing to sit still long enough to heal. Otherwise, you carry the same wounds into every new beginning. You recreate the same pain in different colors. The escape that enslaves loses its power when you stop running from yourself. Freedom is not a place. It is a way of being, a way of facing your fears instead of fleeing from them, a way of trusting that you can survive discomfort without abandoning yourself. You were not made to live in flight. You were made to live in fullness. You are strong enough to stay. You are brave enough to heal. You are wise enough to know that real freedom never comes from escape. It comes from embracing who you are, scars and all. The distance that dictates. Imagine standing on opposite ends of a bridge with someone you love. The distance is not huge, but it is enough. Enough to make your voice sound different. Enough to make your intentions harder to read. Enough to turn simple moments into misunderstandings. This is the distance that dictates. Distance changes everything. It changes how we see, how we hear, how we feel. It is not always measured in miles. Sometimes it is measured in silence, in secrets, in small resentments left unsaid, in assumptions made without asking. Distance can be comforting. It gives space. It gives perspective. But left unchecked, distance begins to dictate the terms of connection. You start to assume what the other person feels without checking. You start to build stories about their intentions without asking. You start to react to your own imagination instead of reality. The distance that dictates turns small wounds into deep scars. It turns minor disagreements into chasms. It turns love into something heavy and uncertain. You may find yourself pulling away to protect yourself. You may find yourself building walls before anyone can hurt you. You may find yourself living inside a version of the relationship that exists only in your mind. But distance only has the power you give it. It only dictates when you stop reaching across it. You are allowed to bridge the gap. You are allowed to ask hard questions. You are allowed to speak truths even when your voice trembles. Not every bridge can be rebuilt. Some distances are too wide, too deep. Some are created by choices that cannot be undone. But many distances can be crossed if someone dares to move first. You are allowed to move closer. You are allowed to risk being seen clearly. You are allowed to fight for connection even when fear tells you to stay silent. The distance that dictates feeds on assumption. It weakens when faced with honesty. You are not powerless against the space that grows between hearts. You can choose to reach out. You can choose to ask. You can choose to stay present even when distance feels easier. Because sometimes the simple act of stepping closer can change everything. The authority that abandons. Imagine standing in a storm, searching for someone who promised they would guide you, only to realize they have already turned away. The one who was supposed to lead, to protect, to stand firm, is no longer there. Their authority once felt like a shelter. Now, it feels like a broken promise. Authority is meant to provide stability. It is meant to be a foundation you can lean on when life shakes. But when authority abandons, it does more damage than an enemy ever could. Because trust was given, expectations were built, hope was placed in hands that let it slip through. At first you might make excuses for them. They were busy. They were tired. They had their own struggles. You try to carry the weight alone, convincing yourself it is temporary. But slowly, the pattern becomes clear. When you need them most, they are missing. This abandonment cuts deeply because it leaves you not just alone, but doubting your own worth. If the one in power did not think you were worth standing by, maybe you are not worth much at all. That thought plants itself quietly and grows in places you cannot always see. Over time, you may begin to distrust authority altogether. You may refuse to lean on anyone. You may build walls around yourself, believing it is safer to never expect anything at all. But the failure of someone else to honor their responsibility does not reflect your value. It reflects their limitation. You are allowed to grieve what you lost. You are allowed to mourn the leader you deserved but did not have. But you are not bound to live in that emptiness forever. You can become your own authority. You can become your own shelter. You can lead yourself with the steadiness you wished for in them. And when real authority appears in your life again, you will recognize it not by its words, but by its presence, by its consistency, by its willingness to stay when the winds blow hardest. Because true authority does not vanish when things get hard. It becomes stronger. And you are worthy of that strength. The love that limits. Picture a vine wrapping around a tree. At first, it looks beautiful. The vine climbs higher, twining itself around the trunk. It seems harmless, even lovely. But as it grows tighter, the tree begins to struggle. It bends. It weakens. It loses the space it needs to grow strong and tall. Love is meant to nourish, to free, to expand. But sometimes, love becomes a vine that limits. It begins with small things, worry disguised as care, advice disguised as control, expectations disguised as protection. You tell yourself, they only want what is best for me. You believe that love is supposed to feel this way, safe, structured, contained. But slowly, you feel the squeeze. You notice the unspoken rules you are expected to follow. You notice how your dreams are gently redirected, how your spirit is quietly discouraged when it stretches beyond what is comfortable for them. They say, I love you, but do not change. I love you, but not that way. I love you, but only if you stay who you are today. And love, the very thing that was supposed to set you free, becomes a cage. This is one of the most painful betrayals, because it is not born from hatred, it is born from fear. Fear of losing you. Fear of facing their own limitations. Fear of the unknown that growth always brings. But love that limits is not real love. It is need wearing the mask of affection. Real love does not shrink you to fit its comfort. It expands to make room for your becoming. It cheers your growth, even when it is inconvenient. It honors your truth, even when it challenges its own. To free yourself, you must be brave enough to question the love you were taught to accept. You must ask, does this love nourish my soul, or does it suffocate my spirit? And you must believe that you are worthy of a love that does not fear your fullness. Because true love does not cling to who you were, it walks beside who you are becoming. And that's it. Hope you're in peace. Just consider subscribing, because sleep matters. Just then, stress scatters and nothing else matters, right? Peace out.